Damn it, huh?
Oh, what a hit on Dunham by Switowski.
I think I made him shit himself.
I think he just shit himself.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with my co-host, Edgar Allan Poet. Poetic Carnage, episode 21. Do a little bit of a review of this year's playoffs and, of course, talking about our Super Bowl picks, which were half right, maybe.
Yeah, mine were about half right. So just real quick, do you want to start NFC or AFC?
We can start AFC.
Okay, so AFC, we had the Bills versus the Steelers. We lost. I think we our best bet for winning that game was either having it moved out of Buffalo or playing through the snow, which one of those two is going to happen until the governor of New York called crying and the NFL bailed them out, just like they always do. Bills are a better team. Josh Allen was a hoe for faking a slide, and that's how we got that huge touchdown run. There's also a huge holding call on it.
That's actually a great play, though. But yeah,
it is. It is.
But you know what's funny about that is it's the same thing that I saw. Yes, yes. And I'm like, well, I'm just like, the thing is, like, it's why it ties the hands of the defense, because if they go in and blast them, they get the flag. But then if they don't, do you have that happen?
Yeah.
And
so,
you
like, it's really somebody the size of Josh Allen, especially somebody as good as Josh Allen. Is that why we lost the game? No. We lost the game due to turnovers. Was the officiating fair to us? No. The throwing snowballs at a guy when he's trying to catch a touchdown pass and have it not being called. And you can call penalties on the crowd, by the way. It's rare. It used to happen a lot more. Was just wild to me. Buffalo was the better team. Do I think the way that they played that we could have won if we had TJ Watt? Absolutely, because Josh Allen holds on to the ball a lot. TJ Watt's actually had some of his better games against the Bills and Josh Allen. Were the Bills the better team? Yeah. Did they deserve the win? Absolutely. Did I buy into them after that game against the Steelers? No, I was pretty confident that they were going to get slapped in the next round, and they did. One thing I'm not going to stand for is a Josh Allen slander. This whole if people are like, is he still a top 5 quarterback? I don't care where you put him, right? Like, he's obviously not better than Mahomes. You can argue he's better than Lamar. You can argue Lamar's better than him. You could argue Burrow's better than him. Like that 2-3 slot is really competitive. I personally,
well, the funny thing is, I'm not even sure that I do like Burrow more than Allen, but the reality is, if Burrow never got to a Super Bowl, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation, because
it is
right now the biggest deterrent against Allen is that he hasn't gotten to the big game. So.
Yes, brother, preach. And then the whole thing about the turnovers too. And I'm not a Josh Allen guy. Do I like to watch him? Yes. Do I appreciate how far he's come in his development? Yes. Do I respect him? Yes, I do. But I'm a Lamar guy. I'm a Mahomes guy.
And he's facing the same thing. Lamar lost, and so now everyone's going to be like, the guy that went from MVP is like, all of a sudden, like, oh, no, I don't know.
Now he sucks. Just a minute ago, he's MVP. Now he sucks. But here's the thing with Allen. He does turn the ball over a lot. But here's the thing. It's about ratio. So I'll be crazy just to make a point. If I throw 20 interceptions, that's really bad. But if I throw 100 touchdowns, you're like, oh, 5, that's amazing. So the amount of touchdowns that Allen makes, the amount of masking he has to do, that offensive line, I'm not saying it's terrible, but I'm saying is that it's a reputation line. Like if I asked an average fan, hey, who's got one of the best lines? Like instinctively this year, people would say Tennessee. Tennessee's line was awful, but you're used to having a good line. They would say Dallas, and Dallas has a really good line this year, but they used to be great, right? Like early Zeke days, mid Zeke days, right?
Yeah.
And so people still think that Buffalo's line is a little bit better than what it is. They did get better last year. They're horrible. They were okay this year, but the load that Allen has to carry, especially with some of those injuries on defense, is massive. And what he's running up into is he's running into the Mahomes machine. Sometimes, and fans can't understand this, and it drives me insane. It's like if you're a 90s ball guy, the Utah Jazz were a better team than a lot of teams that have won the championship. They ran up into the Chicago Bulls machine. The Jerry West and his Lakers.
That was the problem with my Trailblazers. I mean, with Clyde and all them, they were like a very strong team, and then
you ran into that machine.
Jordan. Yeah.
The Patriots. People are like Peyton Manning. I'm like, Peyton Manning might have 4 or 5 Super Bowls, but for now he had some struggles a little bit with the Chargers as well, but it was mostly the defensive Belichickian era. It actually got better for him when Brady became a better quarterback and his teams got some defense. And so I'm not a huge Josh Allen dude, but the disrespect that man gets is insane. And he's probably better than who the critics' favorite team's quarterback is. So that was my takeaway from the game. I'm not going to shit on Mason Rudolph either. The wheels fell off. He's a second or third string guy. He's a bridge quarterback guy. He played admirably to get us there. The slander is insane. The homers who think that he should be automatically named starter, and that's insane too. But I'm more okay with some of the positive insanity. I would have really liked to have played them with TJ Watt, because if we beat them, we would have played the Ravens, and Tomlin is like 6-2 or 7-1 against the Ravens the last game. Would they probably beat us? Yeah, but the divisional games in the playoffs are horrifying, because that's the biggest, that's the funkiest thing. Your take on my sad sack day that was that game?
I mean, I picked Buffalo to win. I mean, I think Watt, when you take him out of the equation, that does pose a problem, because he's so disruptive to an offense. And so, and then he were on borrowed time. Like, it's not that I thought that Pickett would do any better. It's just that you're kind of like where Denver is. You need a quarterback, and you don't know who it's going to be yet. And it's not the guys that are on there, but they can be decent second stringers. I don't know what's going to happen with Pickett going forward, because
he's named the starter, but he's going against the competition. So we literally are the Denver Broncos. The thing is, like,
chances are he's going to be a second stringer the rest of his life. Like I don't, whether he's probably still going to get another chance, but
yeah,
he's really only got one more year. If they let him start, then this is really going to be it. Because if he can't do it,
we're going to have a lot of fun with him draft time because Tomlin made this interesting statement. Tomlin's not a guy that gives away a lot at pressers. But he
right?
talked about how we're going to do different things. We got Arthur Smith. I like the OC. He's a horrible head coach. I think he's a good offensive coordinator. He was the guy who was for the Derrick Henry, good Tannehill years, right? So we have capital to trade up. We have just as much capital as any other team that doesn't, owe other teams their picks. And I think that there is a real chance that we could trade up. I don't know how far up. I'm not saying we're trading up for fucking Caleb Williams or Drake May, right? But even Daniels on down, I think
I'll say now that I think Drake May is going to drop.
The combine is going to be huge for him.
Yeah.
You know who the combine is going to be huge for the other way is McCarthy, because there are people who say that McCarthy has a huge arm, and if he can show that at the combine, that's gonna move him up. We know he has decent mobility.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm at with that. I don't want to discount him.
Yeah, no, you
that's
just need to see more. You need to see more. You need to read some evaluations and watch some tape.
Because that was a strong defensive team.
It was, and that's the question. For him, it's going to be real quick. It's going to be, was he restrained by the system and could have done more? Or the other way, is it somewhere in the middle, or is he somewhere in the middle and he can be coached? But he is a name to keep an eye on. He's the whole thing that he's not worth a draft pick at all is insane to me. I'll say that. There are people who are saying that he shouldn't even be a 6th or 7th round pick.
I think he's a legitimate 2nd or 3rd round.
Third, right. It's for him, if he has that Zach Wilson moment,
But we all know though that when it comes to the draft, like teams get desperate, so he could go higher. Like Tebow went the 1st round. So
yep, absolutely. He's going to be an interesting guy.
Can we say something real quick though? Can we talk about the fact that Necco predicted the Lions would get to the Super Bowl and that we were supposed to see you in a thong and it just didn't happen?
So here's the thing. First off, that was a non-binding joking statement. So that was the first thing that we're going to talk about there. The second thing is, I'm not going to lie to you. It was they had to win the Super Bowl. I believe it was they had to win the Super Bowl.
No, actually, she just picked. I'm talking
about for me, for my heart.
That would have been your stipulation.
That was my stipulation. But during that halftime of that NFC Championship game, I was looking rough, brother.
You're commenting me when I said, "Hey, it's looking kind of bad here," and you're like, or no, it's like when they started coming back, you're like, "Yeah, that's a shame. I was looking for thongs that I was trying on.
Trying on all these thongs. I better keep doing it. I have. Well, you know what they say about me. I can't take a joke, and I always have to be right. That's what they say. But
we'll get to that game eventually.
Yeah, we'll get to that game. The next one was the Chiefs-Dolphins game. I don't think there's anything to say about that because that went exactly how we all thought. I will say this for McDaniels. Just say you're a warm weather team. You don't like the cold. You're preparing for it. It's an obstacle, and wear sleeves. Just admit, like some teams, they struggle in the heat, not as much anymore with better technology.
Denver plays very poorly in Miami all the time.
Just say, hey, we would obviously prefer to not be playing in the desolate weather of Kansas City. Address it and move on. I don't have anything to add for that game. Do you?
No, exactly. I predicted it. So Miami's not a cold weather team for whatever reason. I mean, it's weird though because sometimes they will go to New England and play them tough.
Division, maybe? Do you think that's it? Do you think it's just the division factor?
Yeah. But any other time they've had to go like in the playoffs too cold, is just they don't do very well.
No, exactly. If they're going to be in the playoffs, and ironically, they almost beat the Bills that year with their backup quarterback. So, like, if it's an East Coast cold weather team, it's going to be okay. But Midwest on out is just bad. Browns versus the Texans. I picked the Browns. That is one of the worst.
I was a little surprised by that game. I mean, I didn't discount the Texans, but the way the Texans went out there and dismantled them was kind of shocking.
What happened was God looked down on me and he said, Poet, I fucked you. I fucked TJ Watt. I screwed up. I owe you one. And he said, not only Is Joe Flacco going to shit the bed and throw those weird pick sixes, like the one where he's spinning and trying to make a mobile play
back to back?
I was like, that's amazing. But then Myles Garrett went out there, did less than nothing, got ragdolled like a bitch. One of my favorite things about being a TJ Watt fan is people will be like, "Oh, well, he plays against the right tackle, so that means that he sucks." And I like to chart how often pass rushers swap sides and whatnot. By the way, real quick, for his career, he started off going against left tackles, but they had James Harrison, so they moved him over there. He has better I can't remember if it's better flexibility or he's able to do another move better on the right side, but they keep him there. But you've never seen the Hall of Fame, two Hall of Fame pass rushers on the same team, with one being on the right side. So that's completely unheard of, right? So watching him go against the right tackle and get stonewalled brought a little tear to my eye, warmed the cockles of my heart. I felt a little twinge south of the border, maybe. And it was amazing to me because the Browns didn't deserve to be there. They won several variance games. They got gifted the game against Indianapolis. That's probably the worst officiated regular season game that I've seen in years. And they are one of the worst 11-win teams I've ever seen. They got beat by a rookie quarterback. They had the better overall roster, and they're screwed because now they're going to have to pay Flacco or another backup to be there, who's going to always be in the specter, in the shadow of Deshaun Watson, waiting to come forward. And Watson's cooked.
Yeah.
Their roster is another year older. It's getting more and more expensive. They might have to pay Amari Cooper soon, which is going to be hilarious because he's still only good for 3 years.
Did they pay Chubb yet?
I believe he is under contract, and he's probably going to bounce back strong. And I do hope that happens because that was a horrible injury. And I think most football fans are Nick Chubb guys. Like, that's an old school running back.
He's a bruiser.
He's a beast. Yeah, they're screwed. This was their moment because their quarterback play got better the deeper they got into the backups until they found Flacco. And
right.
They're going to be a really strong 7-8 win team next year. And I am personally here for it. Do you have anything for that game other than CJ Stroud's the truth?
Now, yeah, Stroud mesmerized as he usually does. The defense is a lot better than people would give Houston credit for. But just the way it all unfolded, like I expected a closer game, but that was just nuts. Like, really surprising that the Browns played as poorly as they did.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Sorry. It's bad weather rule internet. So I was able to hear almost everything that you said. Shout out to D'Amico Ryans, by the way. What an excellent campaign. Also, one thing that's going unsaid, they had substantial injuries to their wide receiver core the entire season, and that did not slow them down. So
I didn't go back to see. Like, I thought, like, I don't know if I had Houston winning the division, but I remember saying they would probably be better than we thought they were. And I think
my recollection was you thought they might get 6-7 wins.
Yeah.
Now to be fair to that prediction, that was under the presupposition that Tennessee wouldn't be a complete dog water, and that I don't know what happened, that Indy wouldn't be as good as they were, and what happened in Jacksonville
that's miserable.
Miserable. There now we're starting to think, is that coach on the hot seat? And Peterson's a good coach.
Has to be, because they were supposed to win the division.
The way that defense like I know Lawrence got hurt. I'm not here for the Trevor Lawrence slander. He has to play better. The way he's racking up injuries, and the way that he was unable to play through them kind of horrified me. Let's skip.
Well, they're a team that really needs to start working on their O-line too, though.
They do, and they need to upgrade. They need to upgrade that offensive line. They need to get it some fucking depth. Like, we talk about how, I'm the king of saying you can overinvest in anything, and you can overinvest. Like, you cannot realistically win a Super Bowl if you have a top 5 left tackle contract, a top 5 right tackle contract, and you pay a guard, right? That is, we have seen or different variations of that money be thrown around, because we've seen Indy not sniff it, we've seen Dallas not sniff it, we've seen the team that's come closest to investing their offensive line beyond everybody else was Philly.
Mhm.
With that being said, that doesn't mean you don't get at least a good left tackle, or try to. Like Cincinnati, they've been trying to fix that line. They've spent huge resources on it. It has not come to fruition for whatever reason.
No, and they need it
Um,
because Burrow keeps getting hurt.
Hurt, yeah, exactly. And it's not like they like Lyle Collins. They've signed. They got Orlando Brown Jr., who's been a letdown. He's still not horrible. He's the best left tackle they've had, but you need depth. Like for instance, Thuney went out for the Chiefs. They built the interior line after that, the debacle of Mahomes' ankle injury and their interior line getting shellacked by Tampa, right? You could not tell that they had a backup guard in there. Some of that's going to be Reed. Mahomes, when you watch his clips, you can actually
Well,
see
you
his
got to keep
offensive
that in
line.
mind because you got a placeholder for that. Because I got a lot to say about what they did in the postseason,
Yeah,
using their 3
absolutely.
tight ends, like the max protect. Like that was a genius move by Reed.
Yeah, it was, and they were able to do it because they have a good defense and they were controlling the game, and they were able
Yeah.
to. What we're seeing is Mahomes is able to win in basically every iteration of playoff football. If we go to the NFC, I had the Cowboys beating the
So did I.
Packers, and I don't know how Mike McCarthy has a job. He should have been fired almost immediately. It is inexcusable.
He should have been
His team,
fired at halftime.
his team loses in humiliating fashion every year. 3 years ago, they were like, well, it's his first year there, and it wasn't that bad. They lost to a really good team. And I'm like, yeah, but you got slapped. So it's something he should have been fired there. But then you get to the Ezekiel Elliott was the center play, and then they're whining about how the refs screwed them because they couldn't get that last snap off, like to chuck it into the end zone and all that. Like every year they become more and more of a joke. And then this year they're like, hey, the punchline starts immediately. Jordan Love is secretly Tom Brady. Like it was bad. McCarthy should have been fired. They're an unserious team. I have to say this about Micah Parsons. I'm a Parsons guy. I'm a Parsons over Myles Garrett guy. Um, Parsons did
Oh, easily.
nothing.
Easily.
He did nothing. He did nothing the entire game. He is too. I understand that when you're getting whooped like that, you can't like, other than like force fumble, touchdown, interception, touchdown. Like it is almost impossible for you to change the outlook of the game. However, give me a tackle for loss. Give me a sack, a pass defensed, a tackle for loss, a fumble recovery. And no one forced a fumble, so he can't do that. I'm not blaming him for that. But you have to find something to give you at least that first step.
Yeah, because the consideration here is that I look back to Super Bowl 50 and Vaughn, just how he dominated that entire game. When you have a guy like Garrett, TJ Watt, Parsons, they need to play at that level at the biggest
Yeah,
time.
they
And
do.
he, just like Miles and against Houston, Parsons was invisible. Like you just this is your leader on defense. He needs to make plays.
It
And
is.
even though he can't win it by himself, he still needs to find a way to make a play. Like it's
And
just
what frustrates, here's the worst part. Like, let's say he was actually playing at that level and it wasn't working. If he's going out there and balling and he's not able to make any impact that would show up in the stat sheet, then that means, because like that defensive
probably
line,
triple blocking him.
not only that, but that means that defensive line, they have a couple guys with decent sack totals. They have a decent pass rush rotation. If
Yeah.
if Parsons really was doing what he was supposed to do and he was getting blanked, then that means that whole front seven completely not just failed, because obviously they failed. They got murdered and they got pity points at the end to make it look like, I think they got within 2 scores. That was not a 2-score game.
No,
That was not a 2-score game.
not as close as it turned out to
Yeah,
be.
exactly. If McCarthy was, I'm sorry, if LaFleur was a petty man, They could have probably got to 60 or 70. They could have won by 4 or 5 scores.
They let out the gas a little bit.
Exactly, because they didn't want to get their guys injured. Anyway, the Dallas Cowboys, I love their fans. I think that their fans are some of the best in sports. They're a little annoying and delusional. I usually do feel a little bad for them, but it's become a tradition for them to pan to the crowd and we watch them cry, and I just laugh. It just happens. It comes from a bad place.
Yeah, I know a lot of Cowboys fans, just various webs and whatnot, and they're like the Raiders a lot of times, and the Raiders don't do it so much anymore. But they used to just come on every year. They're like, "It's our year, it's our year. You can't stop us. We're gonna get our Super Bowl," and then like they lose, and I'm like,
And it's not just that they're like, "It's our year." It's the fact that they not only is it their year, but they can't be quiet about it being their year, and they will talk a lot of trash. So they get
obnoxious about it. They
do. And here's the thing, and I mean this, and this is gonna sound like I'm trolling. Here's my frustration. I actually think the Steelers, without TJ Watt, could actually have beaten the Cowboys this year. Because if you tell me that they're going to be so unprepared and so lackadaisical,
and you're probably right. I mean, Denver probably could have went in there and won that if they.
You own Dallas. You have some weird hoodoo over Dallas. You would have.
Yeah. It's just like you said it right. Like, and we saw this. Like, again, we're gonna get to the Ravens and Chiefs, but it's somewhere shit going on. Like, did the coaches are not prepared? Something happened.
Dan Quinn was interviewing for jobs, but that can't be all of it. Like, you know that a high a valued coordinator is going to be interviewing for jobs. You know that, and I don't know what it is. Like, obviously, this is what I do know, that sometimes we look at a team's record and we think that it is completely what defines them. And I had a teacher in law school tell me this is something that's stuck with me. And it's actually one of the smartest things I've ever heard in my life, right? Whether you're taking a test or classwork or whatever, and you're getting an objective measurement, football works pretty easily, like a win, a loss, sack total, yards per game, whatever. That is just a snapshot of where you are in that moment. Now, for something like football, you might need a snapshot of 4 or 5 games or like whatever, context depending or whatever. Okay, the snapshot of the Packers record at the end of the season statistically did not show how good of a team they actually were. It showed how good they were overall that season, but not where they were then. And so they come into the playoffs. Jordan Love, now he played great, and I'm not going to lie to you, it helps when the other team has no pass rush. It also helps when I saw this on Twitter, that bomb, that wide open bomb was that wideout was the most wide open a player had been all year. There wasn't someone within like 17 yards of him. It was insane. And they were a much better team than their record said. If they were as good,
but I don't think it shouldn't have been the Cowboys.
They shouldn't be. No professional football team should lose by 28 points unless it's like, hey man, my quarterback is out for the game, and then what happened? My middle linebacker is like.
I don't need your side commentary over there. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
She said, "Yeah, we shouldn't busy losing to Miami the way we did."
Yeah, you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. And
it's in Miami. I expect anything bad to go on.
Yeah,
your new coach came out talking shit.
Yeah, Sean Payton. She's right. Sean Payton came out talking more shit than a frat boy, like 3 keg stands in. And
he learned the hard way.
He did learn. That's who Sean Payton is. Sean Payton is
okay, but is that the worst moment for Sean, or is it when he tried to talk shit about Hackett and then let the Jets come in and beat your ass a mile?
I'm not gonna lie to you. Nathaniel Hackett is Sean Payton's daddy. Sean Payton completely blamed all of Russ on him, and surprise, it wasn't all on Hackett. A lot of it was. Sean Payton said he was going to be pissed if the team didn't make the playoffs, so I'm sure he better be real mad now. And Sean Payton, for as talented of a guy as he is, and he is a great head coach, he's one of the most hated coaches in football because he's an asshole. He has been plagued by scandals, and he's a shit talker. And he should remember he's a Hall of Fame head coach. Okay. But he's not in that Parcells, Belichick, Walsh, Chuck Noll level. There's tiers of greatness. And he's not even the best coach in his division.
Right.
So he should.
And now you got Jim Harbaugh. So
yeah, you got angry Harbaugh.
So there's going to be a lot of competition.
It is, and you know,
did the Raiders re-sign their guy?
They did. They learned
that's a smart move on their part.
It is because the locker room believes in him, and that's just having anything positive for the Raiders is amazing. Next game, Rams versus.
I did final thought on the Cowboys.
My bad.
The thing about the playoffs is it's a brand new season, and the Cowboys, that window they have is closing fast.
Yes, sir.
Because it's been 2 or 3 years now where they've had these early exits. I can just remember back in 98, 99 when we went to our second Super Bowl, and we almost had to play the 15-1 Vikings, and that terrified me. But the Falcons, of course, upset them. So that just shows you, because the Vikings never got back there.
Nope.
So it just shows you how quick those can change. Just like the Ravens, everyone's like, yeah, we'll get them next year. You might be able to get back there next year, but it's very difficult.
But that's the Baltimore. So one thing I will say for Baltimore, and this, I hate to give this to them, and I know you don't disagree with this, and I agree with your point, but they take a model where they're good every year because they draft well. They don't typically trade up. They don't typically make big splashes in the draft. They're a little more active. Sometimes they are active in free agency. Like they take a holistic approach. They never say never. And so the way that they got the Flacco Super Bowl, there's some luck there. They kind of got it the way that the Steelers got it in 2005, was we're good every year. Our team has punching power. We're always going to be a little bit better than what our record says. We can punch up. Whereas the Cowboys are a team with a lot of star power, a lot of flash, but they can't punch up. They can realistically only punch down. And the issue for the Ravens going forward isn't paying guys. They have the best, second, third best, whatever you want to call them, front office in football. Okay. And it's not drafting well. They've had years where they didn't get players that panned out, but more often than not, they have some of the best drafts. Like look at Zay Flowers, who's a dog, and he screwed up big time in that game, but he also had some of the biggest plays.
Yeah, he had pros and cons.
Yeah, he had pro. He's Steve Smith. He's the next iteration of Steve Smith Sr. He's going to have to learn to channel that anger into more positive. But the people are like, God, get him off the team. I'm like, yeah, let him play for Pittsburgh, please.
Send him to Denver. If you don't want him, send him to Denver.
We need a dog. That's the Baltimore model. So as long as Lamar is healthy, that's going to be their key. And there's some risk with that because he's had some injury issues. Then again, I think he's solidly a top 5 guy, and as a guy who doesn't have a guy like that on his team, I would be willing to live with that equation of a really excellent MVP caliber quarterback up and down the playoffs with some health issues, as opposed to just not having anything there. But it is kind of funny that Baltimore does better when they're not a 1 or 2 seed. They usually do better in the playoffs when they're 4 or 5. Anything else you'd like to add, my good sir?
Nope, that's it.
Next game was Rams Detroit. It's one of the best games of the year. Rams got screwed at the end of the game. It's not why they lost. They went over. They did. I mean, on one play, it was defensive holding, pass interference, and a 15-yard penalty on a defenseless wideout. I don't know how they missed it. And it is okay to say that they really screwed the pooch. It's also okay to point out that if the Rams didn't want to lose, if my NFC Rams didn't want to lose, maybe score a touchdown in the red zone and don't go 0 for 3 or 0 for 4. Maybe don't let Amon-Ra just run around and bitch slap your secondary. Maybe stop Montgomery and Gibbs. Just a thought. It was a great feel-good story for the Rams. The Rams had a hell of a year. If you look at the guys that they drafted, Puka Noah.
No, he had a hell of a game.
He had a hell of a game.
Nice.
The one of the defensive rookies of the year is the interior lineman who had like 8 or 9 sacks. Another defensive player. Like the Rams hit Pro Bowl caliber, at least this year. We'll see how they had all those guys had Pro Bowl caliber years in their rookies. So we don't know what the future is going to look like, but anyone would be optimistic. Out of third, fourth, and fifth round picks, the Lions, I have to eat my crow. I have to give them their due. They are a better team than I thought that they were. I've always been higher, and you can attest to this because you've seen me get shit for it. I've always been higher on Jared Goff than pretty much everybody else. Jared Goff is
higher than him than I was initially.
He's a top 10 quarterback. I'm not gonna hear it. I'm not.
I thought when they sent him to Detroit, they sent him to die.
It looked like he was going to be a bridge year starter. They cut him. Yeah, she loves him. Let her, it's.
She's also, like, I knew you'd go there and lead him to the promised land.
Basically what happened.
No, he's done very well. I'm happy for him. Like, I really thought, because like once that trade happened, I said, oh, LA is getting a better quarterback.
They did.
Detroit. But Goff, like, proved that he's worth something. That's a lot to say.
And people were too down on him. People don't like nuance. And so his first year as a rookie, he's horrible. But Jeff Fisher was
magic word, nuance.
Then you have the next year, and he's amazing. But Sean McVay, so he goes from, is he a bust to, is he a top 5 quarterback? And heaven forbid there be something in between there. His first year in Detroit, he's pretty good. That roster isn't what it was then. Last season, or I guess technically now 2 years ago, they just missed the playoffs. They play spoilers. They stomp out Green Bay. They stomp out their dreams. And then this year, he is once again an excellent quarterback. So if you look at how they built that team, 2 good backs, excellent offensive line that they're not paying a ton for because Sewell, who they put at right tackle for a while, is now one of the best left tackles in football. Amon-Ra, Laporta, that other wide receiver, I always forget his name.
Didn't they say that
Williams,
Laporta and Gibbs had rookie rule rookie awards or something during it's the first time with 2 players on the same team in the same year.
I know Laporta broke a rookie record. It might have been receptions or touchdowns.
I can't remember what it was.
And here's the thing too, to totally when the Lions drafted Gibbs, I was like, I like DeAndre Swift. I wouldn't have got rid of DeAndre Swift. And DeAndre Swift had an excellent season in Philadelphia.
Well, you and I were shaking our heads at the draft because they passed on Robinson.
And here's the thing. Bijan Robinson had 1,400 all-purpose yards with a head coach who's now my offensive coordinator who didn't use him enough in the red zone. So I will stand on the Robinson over Gibbs thing. I will stand on that linebacker being taken. He was pretty good, but I still think that's a weird pick. I don't think that was an optimal pick. We both liked the safety from Alabama being taken there. Yeah. So I said it then, and I'll say it now. They did a lot of good things. They didn't do them completely optimally. And the fact that they also got a 4th rounder for Swift, which was not, in my opinion, what his market value would have been, because he was electric in Detroit when he was healthy, and he was electric in Philly when they gave him the fucking ball, and Hurts would throw to him in the flat. That was one of my fantasy studs for a long time until they went away from him and put Gainwell in for no fucking reason. Bad coordinator. Bad coordinator. The reality of the situation is, the Detroit Lions made a championship game. They probably should have won the championship game. They're no longer a joke of a franchise. Now they have to deal with the real hard part. Now they have expectations. Now everyone's taking them seriously. Now they're
got to follow it up.
They got to follow it up, and that division might be getting better.
But that's going to lead us to
the funniest game.
Well, to their game against the Niners, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
There's some things about that both Neko and I were agreeing about.
Yeah, the Eagles versus Bucks. I predicted the Eagles.
I called that
Brown was out when I found out AJ Brown was out. I changed it. Thank God I changed it.
Although I didn't think that was going to be another blowout. I did not think the Bucks would do what they did to them.
I've never seen such bad tackling in the playoffs. They showed.
I have. One time, Denver played Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah, it's
when
okay.
Manning was still there.
So I haven't seen such bad tackling in like 15 years.
Yeah.
Once every 20 years, I would have fired Sirianni. To me, it's very clear that he is a coach that is riding a roster. He's not a coach leading a roster. He's very childish. His antics, screaming at the fans, getting hype when they're insane. Uh, Security guy is getting into it with players on the
Oh, I
sideline.
remember that. Yeah, that was
With Drake
ridiculous.
Greenlaw from it is he is obviously a good football coach. He is obviously not mature enough to be a head coach. They lost their offensive coordinator. They looked like a really good offense for quite some time. They had some flaws. The offense got progressively worse and worse.
Did you think Jalen Hurts regressed this year?
Yes, he did. He regressed without that
I thought so
offensive
too.
coordinator.
I
He
thought so
regressed
too.
without that offensive coordinator. He did some things, and look. I'm going to talk about the things that he did wrong first. That Jalen did wrong first. He had some games, that Jets game. Some of those picks were horrible. Now he threw one of them at the end of the game, and I remember being okay with it. I can't remember if the ball got hit, if the defender made an excellent play, but he had a 4 interception game. That's about the most anti Jalen Hurts thing that you're really going to see, because even early on in his career, he took care of the ball fairly well. He was still reading the field. He was still making good decisions. Honestly, what happened to him is he got that ankle injury or knee injury. I think it was a knee injury. He wasn't able to run as well. And when he
Yeah.
wasn't able to run as well, it made him a little bit easier to defend in the pocket. And I'm still high on him. He's still a top 10 quarterback. I think most teams would still take him. Next year is a huge year for him. Next year is going to decide, is he just an above average 8 to 12? You can argue kind of like a Kirk Cousins guy,
Yeah.
or is
Well,
he
let me
that?
ask you, like, if you took Jalen and threw him on, say, Cleveland, do you think Cleveland would be better, or do you think they'd be about the same?
I think they'd be a lot better because Stefanski is one of the most underrated head coaches in football. And they
Okay.
have, if I look at their roster, they're going to have the running game that they stick to. They have the tight end. That's a big part of their offense in Philly.
So you
The
think the
rec-
bigger issue is the coaching right now?
I think the bigger issue is the coaching, but to keep it fair for Hurts, some of the biggest issues is they're not coaching him well, and he needs it. He's not a Peyton Manning. No one's a Peyton Manning, but he's not a veteran guy who basically knows football. I'm not. Oh fuck. Okay, that came out wrong. I basically just said he's an idiot. I'm trying to find a better way to say it. And I'm okay. He's still a developing, growing guy. He's still a guy who has to work on his fundamentals. He's still a guy who needs to read and do all the mental work. Obviously, all those guys do. That's part of being a fucking professional. He's still developing. And it would be like if he's like 90% there, 80% there, and then he loses that, he's going to be an unfinished product. And so their biggest issue is they need to find a coordinator who can coach the guy with Jalen Hurts' talents and skills, coach that type of system, and make sure that when they call plays, that they're calling plays that make sense. Because that Jets game, they were up like 2 scores, and at one point they were just throwing bullets for no reason. And I'm not saying that you always have to run the ball because you run the damn ball, but like you're a Denver fan. You see a bootleg play and you instantly smile on the inside because you can do a lot out of that. The run pass option is something you're
Right.
familiar with. And so that's how I looked at that. Also, I got to give it to Baker. I feel like I've one of the few guys who's had Baker kind of pretty much pegged for what he was. He wasn't good enough to be the number 1 pick. He was good enough to be a first round quarterback. He was awesome in Cleveland when everything was awesome around him. He was okay when things were okay. I did not hold that injured season against him when he shouldn't have been playing.
Yeah, I think that was a point in his career where he was just trying too
Wanted
hard.
to get paid. Yeah, he was trying too hard. He wanted to get paid. He's also, here's the thing, Baker Mayfield is one of the toughest guys in the NFL. Baker Mayfield is a ferocious competitor, so he wants to play. He's grown up a little bit. He is a guy who you could argue if you highball him, you could argue he's like the 10th best guy. If you lowball him, you could maybe, I think the lowest you could go is 18. I view him as somewhere between 13 to 17. He's going to be up and down a little bit every year. But here's the thing. Everybody wrote him off for dead. I thought Cleveland gave him a raw deal. I thought that he was going to fail in Carolina. I didn't care about that because it's Carolina. He was with the Rams. They did very basic shit with him, like for 1 or 2 games. Looked pretty.
He still looked good for the Rams, though.
He did. Well, who would have known that calling plays that your quarterback is good at might be a good way to win?
Right.
Game. And it said a lot to him that McVay put his arm around him, believed in him. He really campaigned for him to get another starter job. Tampa, you got to give it to Tampa. They almost half of their starters were rookies. They had more money than anyone else dedicated to rookies and second-year players on their cap than anybody. They won a playoff game. Shout out to Tampa. It's kind of hilarious insofar as you have to favor them to win the division next year. And that's in a division where like the division winner never wins it 2 years in a row, basically. So I'm happy for Baker. Also, and I'll say this because fuck Cleveland. Watching him win a playoff game and watching Cleveland lose a playoff game in the same wild card weekend is God is good. God is good.
God is good.
We'll go through the next round pretty quick. Oh God! Now that's when all my predictions fell apart. I gotta actually NFL playoff bracket. Some of these games get a lot easier to do. Okay, all right. So, what do you want to do? AFC or NFC this time?
Go back to AFC.
Okay. So in the AFC, let's do Ravens versus Texans. Texans played a great first half of football.
Yep.
And then the second half, I think it's just as simple. The Ravens are a better, more talented team, and sometimes you just get overwhelmed by them. Lamar had a great playoff game. When you play against a Baltimore defense, and they have 2 good corners, or at least above average corners, Hamilton might be the best safety in football. They have the best inside linebacker tandem and a really strong, just a strong front seven in totality. It's so hard to stop them and on offense. And I say it that way. Usually you talk about the defense has to stop the offense. When you play a defense like Baltimore, sometimes it's the other way around. I am not going to sit here and bash Stroud for not playing particularly well. I'm not going to bash the offense for not playing particularly well. I think that the defense, the fact that they held a really strong Baltimore offense down the first half as well as they did, was an achievement unto itself. And sometimes you just run into the better team and they're going to do better team things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where their youth showed. Like they just ran into the buzzsaw that is the Ravens. And, you know, like you said, the first half was actually very good. Like, you know, you could sit there and say, oh, wow, Houston has a chance here.
They did. And they did.
But in the second half, the Ravens are very good defensively. They shut you down. And they did the same thing with the Chiefs the following week. They didn't allow them to score in the second half, but that's some other problems there. But
and the Chiefs also decided they're just going to run the clock. They got up 2 scores and they're like, we don't need to win. We don't need to try to get up 17. The difference between being up 13, 14, 17 is negligible in some situations, which is weird to say. I'll say this for the Ravens. What I liked out of them in the second half is they ran the ball, which will be a spoiler for another part of their games. Chiefs versus Bills. I'm going to let you decide this. Am I going to be nice poet or am I going to be mean poet? Which version do you want?
I'll let you be mean because I'm going to be nice.
Okay,
I'll be nice, nice noobs.
I'll be you. Do you want to start? You want to be the good cop?
Yeah, I'll be a good cop. So I knew there'd be some problems because Buffalo's defense was really depleted. They've had a lot of injuries, and I kind of knew that this was going to be a dogfight. But I was extremely happy that Josh Allen played as well as he did for the most part. He was really trying hard. He was running, although he didn't run as much in the second half. I don't know if that was partly because the Chiefs say we're just going to keep you within the box, not allow you to do it. But uh, there's this thing, and I know you agree with me with certain quarterbacks when you look at them. You and I both like Josh Allen a lot, but got towards the end of the game there, and I just said to myself, I have no faith that he's going to pull this out. I just don't have it. Like Mahomes, I would have that. With Josh, I don't. And it's not really his fault because I think eventually there is some problems in Buffalo. They need to do better with the talent around him. And I think eventually they'll get there, but hopefully the window doesn't close so fast that he never gets there again. But that run he had in the first half to get the score was like just insanely great. And like, that shows you the kind of talent he has. It's just a matter of
he is on
when
that
it comes
Panther.
crunch time, can he do it?
I think the answer is yes. I think so. I'll be nice in this regard. There are times where you're clutch and you still lose.
Yeah,
I get.
Well, that's what happened to him in KC.
Right. That 13 seconds, like the Chiefs
Yep.
score. Oh wow, we're screwed. Hey, I score. You got 13 seconds. Game's over. And
all they need is some defense there, and they win that game.
Open field tackle to be able to play prevent properly. In anything competent defense, right?
Prevents nothing.
And and what sucks is this was a game where he was clutch, in my opinion. His job was to go down and at minimum tie the game. His kicker misses the kick.
Actually, you do have a point because Diggs fucking dropped the ball.
Dig drops the ball. That should have been. You know what? I think if he catches, it's a touchdown. Either way, it was like what, a 70-yard pass. It was a huge. It was over 50.
It was a big one.
It was a big one.
It was a big moment.
It was a big pass, and Diggs talks too much trash, and he's too vocal to drop that. He's also too good of a player to drop that pass. That was insane to me. And he also hit that throw to not Gabriel Davis, Shakir something. The one where he had the dive, and they extended the play, and the wide receiver had the dive. We just couldn't hold on to it. It wasn't the wide receiver's fault. That was a 9 out of 10 difficulty catch. It was a 9 out of 10 difficulty throw. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't, but sometimes the season comes down to that. What I want to say for him is he put the kicker in a position to tie the game. Kicker misses the kick. He throws one pass. I believe it doesn't go to Diggs. He's all open on the cross route. He doesn't go to Diggs. Why would he? Because Diggs is getting more and more expensive, getting mouthier and mouthier, getting more and more of a malcontent, and his production dropped off a cliff this year, and he dropped that pass. So the next play has a guy wide open in the end zone, he turfs the ball, and it's like, wow, that's a horrible play. But I will say this, I'm about to drop some old knowledge, some old football knowledge. I'm going back to when I didn't technically exist. Niners, or it might have been one. I was either negative months old or one. Bengals, Niners, Super Bowl. Joe Montana drops back. It's the drive where they end up getting the game. Drops back, looks at a defender, a cornerback. Cincinnati defender's like, "Hi, Joe. Look, I got my little stripes on. Be great if you threw that ball to me." And Joe goes, "Well, I am a gentleman." And rifles that bitch right at him. Defender has it in his hands. Drops the ball. That interception would have almost mathematically ended the game.
Seal the Super Bowl, yeah.
Seal the Super Bowl. And now the NFL history is radically different. Cincinnati has a Super Bowl. Joe Montana is not the GOAT. Do they go to a guy like Steve Young? Or like, we can do all kinds of speculation. It's a what if. That's a fun. I mean, fuck, we could do that one day as a podcast, like what if type of shit in the offseason when you're just dying to find something to talk about. I'm not saying Joe Montana is not clutch as shit. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he's not a Hall of Fame guy. What I am saying is there is not a guy whatever quarterback the listeners love, whoever their GOAT is, they have sucked ass in a huge game and done some wildly stupid shit. What'd she say?
She said Peyton Manning Super Bowl 48.
I don't remember the 48
Seattle.
I don't know. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't. They
didn't happen.
It
didn't happen.
They skipped that one.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, they went from 47 to 49.
We just never saw it. Don't
yeah,
know.
it was. Anyway, I'm tired of being sad. We're not talking about that Super Bowl. For Josh Allen, when he gets them down there and he screws up that pass and they miss the field goal, he becomes the GOAT, the lowercase GOAT. He's the guy that they shit on. It doesn't matter that it doesn't matter how well he played. Now you mentioned about the depleted defense. I want to push back on that a little bit. They had a lot of those injuries happened early in the season, and the Bills had depth on defense, which is actually something that I want to give their front office credit for because I'm a guy who believes in depth. I want to read some season stats here. Points per game, that defense was ranked 4th, giving up 18.7. That's pretty good. Yards per game, they were 8th, giving up 310. Points per play, they were 8th, giving up .316. Hell yeah, give me a hell yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin. 5.3 for yards per play, 16th, so they were mediocre. Third down conversion, they're 18th. Fourth down conversion, they were 15th. Red zone scoring, they were 15th. Touchdowns per game, they were 7th at 2.1. So they were an above average defense with all those.
Didn't play like it.
No, hell no, they didn't play like it because they not only did the Chiefs put some points on them, they also ran on them. What I think Buffalo's issue is I think we're in this weird situation where in order for them to win, Allen has to be perfect, and almost no quarterback is perfect. He has to go on a Josh Allen heater where he has to get 5 touchdowns, maybe just 1 turnover a game, and that is sustainable in the regular season, and we know that because they've done that like 3 times. It's really hard to do that in the playoffs, especially when, let's be honest, the refs have gotten better about officiating in the playoffs, but simply put, at a certain point, a defender is going to hit a player illegally and make the ref throw a flag. It's just hard to do. And so I'm not blaming their defense because they were banged up. I'm not blaming Josh because I thought he actually played an excellent game. I think that they have a good head coach. I think they need a new head coach. I think they need to find I think Sean McDermott is this generation's John Fox. I think he's great for the rebuild. I think he's great for stability. I think he's great for playoff runs. I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning coach. I think that if you're looking for an offensive comp, I think that he is a guy like McCarthy. Now, McCarthy does have a ring, but the difference is that McCarthy had a great defense with Dom Capers as the DC.
And he had Aaron Rodgers.
And he had Aaron Rodgers, who is an all-time quarterback. Josh Allen, we'll see how his career goes out. He's still riding it. It's not fair to say what
I think one thing's for certain, like I think Diggs is almost like the Terrell Owens of this generation. Like I think he's just too much of a distraction. When shit doesn't go his way, he starts getting on Josh, and it's like you don't need these guys fighting. You need a receiver that's going to be a teammate and not like try to be like.
And he started out that way. Remember 4 years ago, the clip of he's got his arms around Josh, he's taking up for him in the playoffs.
And that's a great point because look at what happened this past weekend with the Ravens. A guy like OBJ goes up to Lamar and hugs him and tells him everything's gonna be okay. It's fucking 10 years ago, OBJ was exactly like Diggs.
Yeah.
And now he's totally different.
OBJ was, the distractions were there. They were different. I don't think that he was as
hurt. He didn't battle with Eli, but he was the boat thing, and he was fighting the kicker's net and losing. It was a weird. I like OBJ, but he's an interesting fellow. No, I agree. I think that he's more like a Dez Bryant, where he means well and he's a fired up guy. The optics are bad. I think for Diggs, this is unfair, but this is a reality for athletes. Who you are is enough. Being your authentic self is enough as an athlete, but you do have to understand that perception is reality. So
Des Bryant, one of the most seminal moments for me as a sports fan. I watched him he was going off on Tony Romo, right? And then they play the audio of it, and he's in Romo's face. He's yelling, but he's like, "No, you got this. You're a dog. I'm a dog." Now that was bad journalism and bad reporting. And the announcers were probably speculating too much about what was being said. Be that as it may, that is the world that we live in. And for Diggs, I think that it's a situation where you can act like that, but you better catch that fucking pass if you're going to be that guy. And you need to tell your fucking brother to get off Twitter and trying to get him. If I'm CD Lamb,
right.
I'm like Diggs. No, I'm the guy in Dallas.
Talking shit either.
yeah, exactly. So, the Bills, I worry their cap is in an interesting spot. Dalton Kincaid, that running back Cook, those are nice pieces. Diggs used to arguably be a top 5 wideout. He has slid down in my estimation. Maybe he bounces back next year and gives us another 1,500 yard, 12-10 touchdown season and proves me wrong. He used to be a superstar wide receiver number 1. Now he's just a solid number 1. They need to stay healthier, which no team can control. I think they need a new head coach. And then we go over to the NFC. The NFC is a little bit easy. There's less to talk about. Niners versus Green Bay. Niners, what happened to the Niners is what happened to the Texans. They just ran up against that roster. They could have won. Some people were arguing about the bad spots and whatnot. I think they might have a point. I don't know.
I mean, Green Bay was more competitive than I thought they were. That's a good thing for them because they could have easily went in there and got routed.
You want to know what's funny about them? I was a Jordan Love guy.
You've always been a Jordan Love guy. I've never really been a Jordan Love guy.
I was a Jordan Love guy. He's up and down this year. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I think I was wrong about him. He's good enough to be a starter. He's obviously good enough to be a starter.
You were doubting yourself.
But
he actually played so much better down the stretch.
He ascended. And so
now it's a matter of what can he take that into next year? That's going to be the real test.
You know what would really help him? One, if Christian Watson's hamstrings can stop betraying him. They have another Dobbs, who's a promising wide receiver. I would love the running backs are okay. I don't know. I just want them to get a special piece on offense. I don't know if that's a tight end. I don't know if that's replacing a running back. I don't know if that's one of their wide receivers leveling up. I don't know if it's acquiring an all-star left tackle. It feels like their offense is really well positioned, but they could use just a little bit more juice. And that's not a criticism. The Packers always have a good roster. I can't say enough about
their offensive line did a hell of a job against the Cowboys.
They did. And Bakhtiari or whatever his name is, a really good left tackle. I think he was out for the year hurt. They do this weird thing where they have good but not optimized drafts every year, and it pans out for them. Like last year when we covered their draft, and they took. It's
very misleading. Like we looked at the draft, we were sitting there going,
"It's pretty good."
Packers are kind of like, yeah, it's okay.
They took,
but then they end up stepping up and being really well. So
that lineman that they got, that defensive player that they got, we're like, yeah, you know what? Like a lot of mocks had him further. I think we liked him a little bit more than a lot of the main mocks. He was in a reasonable range. We're like, yeah, it makes sense. The talent's there. The need is there. It doesn't feel great. Sometimes they need a little. I think they need to be a little bit more aggressive in free agency and in the draft, but they're always good. Tampa versus Detroit. That was a hell of a game. Another game where Baker plays well, but in my opinion,
and I like that Baker was kind of sad about the loss. Like he wasn't like nasty or angry. He was hurt. Like he wanted to go further. So I'm glad he's passionate about that. He actually got to taste a good portion of the year with the Bucks, and they got past the Eagles, which is a big, big game. That was a big game for them. So,
and you know what? He has now doubled all the playoff wins that the Browns have in 35 years. So he get fucked, Cleveland. Detroit Detroit played amazing. That was a game where as Diggs is descending, Amon-Ra is ascending.
He is such a player.
Laporta is a stud. Gibbs,
That's your
Montgomery.
next Kelsey right there.
He's a bad boy. He is a bad boy. There are some really negative things that we could get into for the Bucs that happened. The defense did not play well. They gave up some huge chunk plays. They made a handful of plays down the line, but this is what I'll say for Tampa.
To be fair, though, this is the thing about both Detroit and KC is that the offenses are very deceptive, man. Like they are very strong. Like Detroit is like a juggernaut. You just wouldn't think it, but they are.
Yeah.
And
everybody
we saw that
up.
when Denver went there, dude. They even despite the problems on defense, our offense against their defense, their offense obliterated us.
It's really hard to ask a defense. Hey,
they have so many weapons.
You don't have if you're playing the Lions and your offense doesn't have a lead or tied or within one score, I should say, within one score, and you have to guard Laporta and Brown and Williams and those running backs, and Gibbs can catch. Like he's not like a Marshall Faulk guy or anything like that. It's mostly short routes, stuff in the backfield, but still, you have to guard every level of the field, and the only thing that they're missing is a quarterback with supreme athleticism. But they have a top 10 quarterback. They can't they did not lose in the playoffs because of Jared Goff. Jared Goff actually played very well against a good Niners defense.
No, he did. And in fact, I was going to bring it up when we got there, but they really didn't get a lot of pressure on him. They did sack him a couple times, but the reality was most of it was on the secondary. They were breaking up passes. And that was really kind of like where the difference was in the second half. The Niners just played better in the secondary.
And in the Niners, actually, the Niners secondary is should be a huge concern for them going into the Super Bowl.
Right. That thing got me worried.
Yeah. So when I look at the Niners, so I have a take. This is an unpopular take. I expect you to disagree with me.
Uh-oh.
And I believe that most people would tell me that I'm wrong. And I believe that there's a good chance that I'm wrong, but I do think ultimately I do think that I have this correct. I don't have an issue with Dan Campbell going for it in all those situations. That's what they do. I will give you a comp to another Lions guy. Matt Millen. Have you ever seen the Football Life on Matt Millen?
I didn't see a Football Life. I know his work and stuff like that.
So he's a really good defensive player. He was a horrible GM. He talked about how he was the GM for the Lions. They kept taking all those wide receivers. And he talked about how the biggest issue that I had was I was scared to make my own mistakes. I wanted DeMarcus Ware, but I got talked into taking this guy. I wanted this guy. I got talked into that guy.
They fucking took like receivers 3 straight drafts in a row.
And and then they finally got Calvin Johnson, right? So like it worked out. One of them was pretty good. They traded him to Dallas for a bunch of picks, and another one was a huge bust. Well, my point is, I went with him. There's a couple guys could have gone with. I went with him because it's more poetic. Dan Campbell knows what his team's about. They're an offensive team with a defensive mentality, that aggressive mentality. And at the end of the day, they know that they have a decent defense, not a great defense. The Niners have a loaded offense. And it wasn't that going for it was wrong. And it's not hindsight 2020. The plays weren't executed. And I would rather have a guy who's going to stick to his guns about what got him there and keep going for it than be a guy who goes away from it. Because let's just say that they kick those field goals and they still lose. Then everybody, what would they be saying? Oh, you didn't go for it. You weren't being the Detroit Lions.
Okay, yeah. Let me. I'm gonna counter argument here.
Sure.
I agree with you in the sense that they're kind of like Kansas City. Kansas City is not afraid to go out on 4th down at all. They did a lot against Baltimore. So I get that, but here's the thing that, and I know Neko was agreeing with me on this. It's not that I'm worried about Dan going for it on 4th down. What I have a problem with is it was 6 minutes left of the game. They're down by 3. You're basically wanting a 2-for-1 deal. So for me, at that 6-minute mark, I'm saying I'm going to kick the field goal. I'm going to tie this game up. Chances are the Niners are going to go down, either get a field goal or a touchdown. I need to leave myself some time to get back and go down the other direction. What ended up happening was once he missed or passed on the field goal, he was down by 10. So the issues are, it wasn't down by 10. Or maybe it was down by 10. I don't remember. But either way, it was the timing of why he just chose to go at that time. I just didn't like it.
I understand not liking it, but there is a reality where you're Detroit. On some level, San Francisco's the better team. They're better.
She's like, they're not though.
You want to know how I know they are? They won more games in the regular season. You want to know how I know that they are? They are once again back at the Super Bowl. You want to know how I know they are? They have more All-Pro players. We know objectively.
Well, it's any given Sunday, but yeah,
it is any given. That's why the game is beautiful. But
and Shanahan is technically a better coach than Ken.
He's at least more accomplished. He is at least the more accomplished coach.
Right.
What San Francisco has going for them is their defense is starting to play better and their offense is starting to put it together, and your defense is starting to take a back step, and your offense is now struggling a little bit to move the ball. So I don't have an issue with them going for it. The biggest issue I had for him was kicking that field goal going into halftime. I hated that play.
Where were they?
Where were they at like field? 3. They were at the 3-yard line, the 4-yard line. They had time for play. Here's the problem. If you're playing,
I have a bigger problem with that than I do the actual towards the end of the game. Because
I have an issue with, you have to know as a competitor, you have to know when. Look, the Lions got beat by the Ravens by like 30 points. The Ravens are not 30 points better than the Lions. They're probably a little bit better.
They were that day.
They were
beat the shit out of the Niners too.
They were.
That's why I thought, Kansas City stands no chance.
Oops, right. Oops. And it's and the reality of it is that when the other team has a better pedigree and they're better on offense, at least talent wise, and I know how good Detroit is talent wise, but the Niners offense is so talented. McCaffrey is better than those two backs. Ayuk is as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown. Debo.
I mean, I can't say that's. I think you and I agree here that play wasn't why they lost.
No,
right? You're up 24-7. You didn't even really score any more points till the fourth quarter. That's not going to do it.
That's not what's going to do it. But if you go for it and you convert, and let's be honest, and you should, you're now up a crap ton of points. You just punched them in the mouth on the way into halftime. You didn't kick a little field goal and try to coast. When you aren't who you are, you have to be who you are and own it for the ups and the downs. And if you're good enough, it carries you through it. The reality of it is that once we got through most of the third quarter, I was like, yep, San Francisco is going to win the game. And I think that the Lions knew that, and I think that they responded with the only way that they could. If we're going to get beat by a better team, one of the best ways to stop that is to control the time of clock, possession, and steal possessions from them. And one way to steal a possession for somebody is to keep the ball and continue on the drive. I just think that they ran into a slightly better team across the board, and they stayed true to themselves, and it didn't work out. And let's also be honest, if it did, if they did do it, and that's what pulled them back into it, then everybody would be like, oh, this guy's amazing. Remember when everybody loved Ron Rivera? He was Riverboat Ron because going for it worked. That's what it is. And I'll also say this for my man Campbell. There are a lot of head coaches who are criticizing him, right? Sitting in the booth because they can't coach anymore.
They criticized him after the game or
there are a lot of ex-head coaches who are analysts on different channels.
Look, I can't really blame him. Like I said, I just think the timing there was shitty. Like I get your point to staying true to yourself, but I think at some point too, you have to kind of like think out your own box. Like with the time remaining and you're down by 10, like you have to find a way to get back in the game. Or at least I think they could have tied it up at that point. That was the thing. Because Niners went down and scored a touchdown to put them up by 10, following that missed fourth down. So
it's I I don't know.
I just felt like that kind of like gave the game away because you're saying if we can't get this, we're not going to win anyway. But if you kick the field goal, it's tied.
It is tied, but your defense is getting its ass kicked, and you're trying.
Right, but even if the Niners go down and score that touchdown, which they did, you're only down by 7. They had the Lions had to go score and then do an onside kick, which is almost impossible to get anyway.
But I think the biggest issue isn't going for it. I think the big issue for it is going for it with that running play where you're basically.
I didn't question the plays, but I don't know.
I think I question some of the play calls more so than the play.
I mean, either way, they chucked away a big lead that this should
they did, and I think the worst part is sometimes when it rains, it pours. That Ayuk touchdown, that face mask touchdown. Yeah. Then we get to Baltimore versus Kansas City.
I have to say, Kansas City did not deserve to be in the playoffs. The only reason they got to the playoffs is because the AFC West is dog shit. They weren't playing great this year at all.
They weren't really. They were still the best team in the AFC West.
They were.
That's how they got to the playoffs is because
playoffs.
Nobody else in the AFC West could sniff the fucking playoffs.
Raiders came close.
The Chiefs.
Yeah,
the Chiefs,
Raiders came close.
Oh.
Yeah, there were that 7th seed. The Steelers barely got in.
Well, let me tell you this. Here's some things that are very interesting about, and I think I think things would have played out a little differently. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. If Miami doesn't lose to Buffalo at home, they would have the 2nd seed, which would have forced another team to go to Miami. And I think that would have played out a lot differently because Miami plays better at home than they do out on the road. So that changed a lot of dynamics right there. Like that really kind of opened the door for Kansas City because they got to go, play home against who do they play? Out Miami. Of course, they would have been playing Buffalo, I think, had Buffalo lost that game. So Kansas City probably was still beating Buffalo, but then they would have had to go to Miami and try to beat Miami in Miami. I don't know if they would have been able to do that.
That would have been a much more spirited game.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would presume that they win in Miami. I like McDaniels so much. And I love Tyreek Hill as a player, not a person. But that team really feels like it feels like there's smoke and mirrors, that they're all speed, and speed is great. Speed is amazing.
They don't like physicality.
And the problem here's the problem that I have with that. I watched Terry Bradshaw do an interview with Colin Cowherd. And he asked him, "Are they too finesse? Are they too speed?" And Bradshaw said, "No, I love speed. Look at my Steeler team: Stallworth, speed; Swan, speed; Franco Harris ran a 4.4 or 4.5, which was blazing in the 70s. Speed." What his thing is that you don't need physicality necessarily from the skill positions. Like it's nice. He was kind of being a gentleman about it, but I at the least took it as. The offensive line isn't necessarily physical. Their left tackle, Austin Johnson or Jackson, is a USC kid. He fell in the draft because he had a bad senior year. I thought that was because he gave some bone marrow to a family member with cancer, is my recollection. He's a good technical left tackle, talented guy, but he's less like an Ogden and more like a Thomas. You know what I mean? More like a technician than a mauler. They're letting Armstead probably go. He's a cap hit. He's really their only mauler, their right tackle. And so I don't know. I think some of it's play calling. I can tell you Mostert is big enough to occasionally run up the gut. Like he's not exactly a tiny, tiny guy. You don't just have to run to the outside. I promise you, McDaniels. There's something that team is. Now I think that he's a grown-ass man. I think he's really smart. I think he'll figure it out. But this year there was an issue. And I think here's the other thing too. Kansas City, their defense is incredible. And Mahomes, like last week, He's running. He's doing the fall away, drifting pass. He's doing all these crazy things that don't still show up on the stat sheet, but they're drive impacting, game changing things. They put so much pressure on you to just keep pace with them, and it's not like the old offense where it's like keep pace with us. You better get if you can't get 30, you're probably screwed. It's not even like last year's team when it's more like can you get the 24 against us? Or defense is actually above average. We got some playmakers and we still got some juice to us. This year, their formula has been we're a top 5 defense. You could argue a top 3 defense. If you pull up their defensive
No,
team,
they actually are because I think they said they hadn't allowed someone to score above 15 points or something.
I think no one scored more than 20 or gotten to 28 against them.
Because I know that Denver, when we beat them like 13-9. This.
Let me see. With Mahomes, like in that second half, and this is a point that I like to watch. I think it's first things first. It's with Nick Wright. He's a huge Chiefs homer. It's also one of the best analysts in sports, at least on network TV. Chris Broussard and Kevin Wildes. It's a fun show. It's a decent sports show. It's not a super serious sports show. But the point that Nick Wright has made all year long, and I think it has some merit. Now he's a Chiefs homer, so he pushes things a little bit too much. In the second half, they're just running the ball. They get up to 2 scores, and they're just grinding. And then at the end of the game, they hit that deep pass. With Mahomes, what he's doing is he's not playing like Mahomes of old. He's not risking as many of the throws that he would. He's not running.
Now I'm just playing some of the clips from the game.
I'm going to respond to them. So let's see. Just nice solid throw to an open guy. Nice schemed open. Let's see this. What quarter is this? First quarter. So they'd score on this. Just a nice Rashee Rice, their second best offensive weapon. Just nice.
Yeah, he actually had a run that got called back in the second.
Yeah, it was a horrible call. It wasn't a hold. They had 2 iffy hold calls on them. Nice run by Pacheco. Pacheco's a little underrated. Nice player. All right, now they're running it again with Pacheco. He gets stopped. It's 3rd and 2. Look at that. No panic. It's 0-0. Patrick Queen's going crazy like he just won the Super Bowl. Oh, it's 4th and 2. And then boom. There you go.
Travis.
Amazing throw at a rough angle to Travis Kelce. He finds a soft spot between coverage. Let's see. It's 1st and 10. What are they going to do? None of this is spectacular stuff. It's nice plays. And then boom. That's Kelce. Catch. Beating Hamilton. He's a safety who hasn't given up a touchdown all year. Here's Lamar. This is when they at least threatened a running game and made Kansas City play them often. It's 4th and 1. Look at where they're going for it. They're going for it on their side of the 30.
Yeah,
he runs it out there. They have to play him honest because they were at least somewhat running the ball. Let's see what happens here. Oh, look at that. That was one of 3 Edwards. Gus Edwards got 3 carries.
Yeah, one thing a lot of the fans disliked was just not enough running. Like they really.
I have a lot on that. And I don't let Lamar off the hook. And this is one of the best plays you'll see ever. This is one of the best plays you'll ever see. He avoids the gap, steps back, avoids another sack. Boom, dime throw. There's Zay Flowers going crazy. He's a new Steve Smith Sr. He's got to challenge that. And this is as good as it gets for them. And then that's Mahomes just being better than everybody. That's Kelce just being better than everybody. Defense didn't do anything wrong. Look at that. I'm Mahomes. I'm just better. I ran a 4.8, but it feels like I ran a 4.6. There's my first down. There's my first down. He's like, hey, Queen, you did really good. You're still trash, though. Purple's a shitty color. Pacheco runs it in.
Yep.
There's Pacheco. And that's all the points that they basically needed. And so I want to talk. I want to talk about the play calling. Actually, let's get through the clips. I'm sorry. There's
okay.
Lamar.
That's
on him. That's on him. He had an alley to run, and he could have gotten rid of the ball. That's on him. You have to give that on the quarterback. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that's your quarterback or not. The quarterback did that. I'm a Lamar guy. That's all.
No, I like that Lamar's patient, but once it breaks down, he's got to get out of there and make something happen.
Yep, there you go. It's 2nd and 7. I thought Travis Kelce was
I think
dead for
Travis
a
had like
second.
10 catches or more in this
He
game.
went,
It was, like,
he went
ridiculous.
crazy. He's breaking postseason records. It's 3rd and 1. Look at the two guys they have in the backfield. Oh, now he's in motion. Oh, now I give it to this guy. It's just enough to leverage the 1 yard that you need. They're working them. They're like a technical boxer. There's Mahomes. He double
And
coverage.
that's the thing, man. Like, you got to find a way to defend Kelce. You just have to.
And the Ravens they have those linebackers in Hamilton. They struggled to do it. Oh, it's 4th and 1. He did not get it. He needed the lunge for it. Now, could you pause it real quick?
Yeah.
So Andy Reid is one of the best head coaches I've ever seen. The play before that, Kelce makes a nice catch. It
should have been a first down.
I don't know. I don't know if it should.
Oh no, he didn't.
He didn't challenge it. I
thought but also he wouldn't have got it because they did show it afterwards that his knee was down.
They had conflicting angles, and so then they just went on to the play. I don't know if he got it or not. I know it was worth the challenge.
They were saying he should have challenged it, but then I think they came back and said that he still wouldn't have got it.
Right.
It would have been worth it though at the time.
It would have absolutely been worth it. And so I thought on one angle he did. But here's what I'm driving at. That play that went against them. They arguably got a bad spot, and the Ravens defense stepped up. Pacheco probably should have gotten a first down. He was probably a little too patient. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't do what a lot of teams do and their fans do, just pout and go, we lost. So that's championship pedigree.
We saw throughout this game that the Ravens lost a lot of their cool.
They were children. By the way, a couple of those penalties actually could have been ejections, and they didn't because it's a playoff game. The clothesline to Mahomes is typically an ejection. He basically punched him.
I actually missed that one, but
it's funny. It's funny because he didn't get a concussion. It's funny looking. So here I want to talk about. I would like to discuss the play calling. Lamar completed 54% of his passes. That's not good. For 272 yards, that's solid. Touchdown and a pick. Let's talk about the pick because I want to talk about what Lamar did wrong real quick. Because I'm a guy.
Towards the end of the clip, if you want to just
actually, fuck it. Let's just do that then.
Okay. Yeah, I got pretty much all the quarters. I just try to take some of the bigger moments of the game.
That's a big chunk. That
was a good play.
That's a great catch. All right, he's styling on him. This is where he gets
the pedal. Yep.
He said, "You're a bitch.
Can't do that."
Spike the ball. I let him know that I'm banging his girlfriend. 15 yards. Lamar's mad. I don't know why he's mad. He did that shit on live TV. We saw it. It's 2nd and 10. Let's see what happens here. Let's take a look. It's a drop back. Hey, screw running the ball. Nice little pass.
There's Zay again, getting it back down there.
Again. Zay had a hell of a game.
Yes, he did.
But when it rains, it pours, and you know what we're talking about.
Here it comes. Should have been a touchdown, but you should have just bruised it in there. Oh.
And it's a touchback. And now it's a touchback.
Oh.
And here's the thing. If he didn't have that taunting penalty and then that happened, people wouldn't be nearly as hard on him.
Right.
But there's 3 guys there. You're also like that play might feel differently if that was Anquan Bolden diving into the end zone. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would call a bit of a selfish play because if he just cradles the ball, he gets maybe down the 1 yard line, but it's a first down at that point.
I think having watched him in college, I think he's just got that dog in him. I don't think he's trying to be selfish. Beautiful throw. That is ODB's biggest play of the game.
Yeah. I don't think he showed up till like the second half.
And then
here it comes. Here it is.
And could you rewind that for me, please?
Yep.
Okay, so we can agree triple coverage is bad. Like if it's not a Hail Mary to like that, obviously that's bad. Okay.
Yep. So
it's 2nd and 10. Look at the defensive lineman there.
Yeah.
Look at what Kansas City is saying. They're saying
they're playing almost prevent here.
They're basically saying we'll fight you for the field goal, but you won't get the touchdown.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. You got
right. Let's see who's underneath because somebody was saying that he was missing somebody underneath.
He almost certainly was.
So here's who's over here. 15, right here by 20.
Is that Nelson Aguilar? I think that's Aguilar. Yeah, and it's 2nd and 10.
And then right here in the blurry is right in the middle. And he went to the zone, but whoever's in this middle.
His defender broke off of him. So that would have been a more contested, but it couldn't have been a worse throw.
But if he throws it in front of him, he's running.
He's got a chance. It's a contested play, but you like contested plays because you have a shot at it.
You have to give your receivers a chance to fight for the ball.
Here's the issue that Lamar had there. Okay, and that's one of the dumbest penalties you'll see because he's offsides, and he's like, "Well, I'm offsides. You know what? I might as well headbutt the guy."
Jesus Christ.
Yep, he's like, "I'm offsides. I might as well just. I haven't hit anyone all game. I've done
and
nothing."
And at this point, there's still 2 minutes left. So I heard they got a big play to Scanling or whatever his name is.
MVS the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's
there it is.
Yep. That really is. That's a killer too because he was on his back.
Yeah, that is literally the game is over. They're out of timeouts.
Yep.
1 second. Oh, I'm just gonna have to find that later.
That was almost like a Miracle Maha right there, getting behind your safety.
It's
I remember that bullshit.
with Lamar Jackson. He had 8 carries for 54 yards. Gus Edwards had 3 for 20. Zay Flowers had 2 for 4. I don't know how the fuck that happens. Justice Hill has 3 for 3. They ran the ball 16 times. They ran the ball 8 times, not with Lamar.
Yep.
Kansas City scores on Kansas City. And then this is what I'm talking about. Be yourself. They scared Baltimore into not playing. The point of a Lamar Jackson, every now and again, he's going to drop a 300, 400-yard game, throw a bunch of touchdowns, and kill you with his arm. The point of him is he's going to get 200 to 250-ish passing yards. He's going to rush for whatever. Sometimes he's only going to run for 30 yards, and those yards might be more back-breaking than a game when he runs for 70. The point of a Lamar Jackson is that he dictates so much of what the defense can do against him effectively. It's almost like changing the rules of football. Mm-hmm. And when you have him throw the ball 37 times, I'm not saying that that should never happen. Football is crazy. I'm not saying that they couldn't have gotten hot, get a touchdown here or there. He's hooking up, and now he's just carving up because they're overcommitting to the run. But this is what the Chiefs did. They said, we have the best corner tandem in football. We have a top 3 corner. Whatever you get in the passing game off of that, guys, whatever you get. Aguilar did next to nothing. Odell did next to nothing. Mark Andrews did 15 yards. What about Isaiah Likely? 2 catches for 16 yards. So almost all of his yards, like 115 for Zay. And the next highest is 39, 34, 22, 16, 16, 15, 13, 2. You want Lamar to run the ball. You want him to run the ball with your running backs because that is hell on a defense to deal with. And when you run the ball 16 times total, half of which are with him, I think some of those might have been scrambles too. I don't know how many precisely. What you are basically saying is we came all this way to not do what the fuck that we've done all year.
Yep. And I was going to get to that. Like, the difference in this game is, one, I talked about earlier, the Chiefs, come playoff time, maximize their protection, got 3 tight end sets. They run the ball very well. It's actually the first time that the Chiefs have said, all right, we know Mahomes can throw it, but what we're going to do is we're going to lean on the running game to get us there and set that shit up with the tight end because we can exploit that. Whereas some reason, because of the success that the Ravens had throughout the year, like dominating teams, both pass and rush, they got away from the run thinking they could just pass against that defense, and it backfired. And
they also, you're right, and they missed.
It's just sad, yeah.
And they got bailed out. Baltimore got bailed out by the refs. They took a touchdown off the board for a holding call that was in no way, shape, or form a holding call. The biggest thing that saved them, and I do mean saved them, Chris Jones got hurt in the end zone. I can't remember if it was a center or a blocking back, who leg whipped him. He came off the field because he got leg. He literally, it was a tripping penalty. It's in the end zone. The ref was looking right at it. I don't know why he didn't call it. It was a personal foul in the end zone. That is a safety. That's 2 more points for Kansas City. And I know that their kicker has a big leg, so I'm not going to speculate where they get the ball off of the weird punt. You know what I mean? But it's basically an extra possession for the Chiefs. You talked about the Chiefs running the ball well. I don't think that they did. Pacheco carried it for 24 times for 68 yards. He got a touchdown.
I think just because the threat
2.8.
was there.
But they ran the ball 32 times. Mahomes threw the ball 39 times. They threw dink and dunk passes, screens, short routes. They told Baltimore.
But the thing about the Ravens is they should have been running the ball at least 20 times.
Yes.
Just with the backs.
They Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. Neither of those guys are Pro Bowlers. But just because you're not a Pro Bowler doesn't mean you're not good. It doesn't mean, especially in the era of a dual back, the double back system. And so
even Dalvin Cook had some good runs in there.
Runs. And so it's just like Pacheco ran the ball 24 times. And they just said, you know what? Fine. He's getting just under 3 yards a carry. His longest run was 12 yards. Mahomes' longest run was 11. Kelsey's longest run was 5. And then they gave the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I guess they got bored. He ran it one time for 1 minute. It was just this thing where what Kansas City said is, we don't have the weapons that we used to. I have Kelsey. I have Rice. Rice is pretty good. But you can't score on our defense. And by the way, they did that with Willie Gay being out. When Schefter announced that Gay was out, he described it as, and I'm paraphrasing, but Willie Gay, the man who was probably going to be the spy linebacker for Lamar Jackson, is ruled out. That was like a couple hours before the game. Guys, if Kansas City's defense is on par with Baltimore's, I'm not saying that San Francisco can't win or won't win. I still haven't made my decision as to that. But what I am saying is the Chiefs defense right now for the past 4 weeks, there hasn't been a defense that's played better. Right. I'm not going to hear it because I'm not going to factor in whatever fluky Cowboys game where they beat some shitty team and got 3 sacks and fumbles and they got a special I don't give a fuck. Like, okay, you're really good at beating shitty teams, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. The Niners defense, the secondary is a little shaky. The pass rush is strangely inconsistent, and they added the guy from your team and Chase Young.
Yeah.
I suspect
Gregory. Yeah, Gregory is in there.
Gregory. They added Gregory. They added Chase Young, who's still a talent, still a good player. I don't know if he'll be great anymore. I hope so. It's sad when injuries derail that. But I just look at what Kansas City did, and I look at that defense, and what they're basically saying is, we can cover your wideouts. Our linebackers can do whatever we need to do, and Chris Jones is still really good. Karlaftis is really good, and we can manufacture pressure with the front 4. We can also blitz. And that's the other thing. I want to give Steve Spagnuolo his credit, and this is why I'm saying Baltimore should fire its OC. I'm not seriously. I wouldn't fire him, but he did an F- job. Steve Spagnuolo is known for what? What is he known for since he was
defense?
And how does he do defense? He blitzes. He is one of the biggest blitzers
and they alternated
in history.
Yep.
That's what they do. Lamar struggles against the blitz a little bit because it's not like.
Well, and that's the thing I kept saying. Like, there were some different things that were happening in that game. One is they didn't adjust. You said it right. The offensive coordinator did not adjust to what was going on. They were blitzing every other down, and that would tell you need to max protect. If you're not going to run the ball, you need to find a way to give him protection. The second thing is, I noticed in the second half, when Lamar had some success getting the ball down the field, he had to drop back like 10 yards.
Yeah.
And if he did get rid of it, he's either getting sacked or he's got to run. So, like, the offensive coordinator really let him down. This is why I thought coaching from Harbaugh on down was like lackluster. Like, you're playing the biggest game of the year for yourselves, and you didn't prepare well enough for this team.
It wasn't a shock what Spagnuolo is. Look, Spagnuolo, there's theories to the game. And one of the theories to the game is, I'm not going to let the other team dictate what I do because I don't do that as well as this. And then the object for me is to, if I do this and I do this well, I have to do this better than what they do to counter it. So it's not like after the 5th screen, Spagnuolo's like, I never foresaw that they would have a hot route to a wide receiver. Like he's seen that 5 bajillion fucking times. But the reality of it is that teams do that, the screen game or the halfback draw or all the other different things to stop the blitz. I read this article. It was about advanced analytics. It was from 2019. And it was by Bill Barnwell. And he talked about how we throw the ball more than ever before. That the stats show that is an unequivocal fact, unobjectable fact, unassailable fact. But it is harder to get sacks now than ever before because we throw the ball shorter more than ever before.
Quick
so
routes, yeah.
And then it's just like, and I'm not going to turn into a TJ Watt, Myles Garrett thing, but I'm tired of the hypothetical sacks because in the era where everybody's athleticism is good enough to avoid at least the first pass rusher, it's harder than ever before to get an actual sack. An actual earned sack is more valuable than ever before. Mm-hmm. So what on God's green earth are you doing when Spagnuolo is out there smoking a Marlboro going, yep, I'm going to blitz you. He's got his fucking cowboy hat on. He's drinking.
Oh, yeah, they basically dared Lamar to beat them with his arm and make the plays necessary to get the ball going. They couldn't do it.
And and not only could they not do it, if you want to slow down, like how many times have you watched the broadcast where they're running the ball to slow down the pass rush, even though it's not effective?
Yep.
Because football doesn't just operate in a vacuum where this down and distance is the only thing that.
And maybe that's why Kansas City was doing what they were doing, because they wanted to keep Baltimore honest. They were like, we don't want you to blitz us, and we're going to slow down your pass rush by handing it off, even if we're getting 2 yards a pop.
They're going to live with it.
Yeah,
they're going to live with it. They were okay with going, hey, if we blitz, there is a chance that Lamar makes us look stupid and he takes it 50 yards down the field. But can he do that 3 times? Can you do that 5 times? Can you do that 4 times? Or you're going to get a touchdown every single time? Is that a sustainable way to play offense? It's the Barry Sanders critique. Hey, he had 130 yards. Yeah, but 75 of them came on one run, and then and I'm not trying to slight Barry Sanders, but I'm saying there was a way to play against him.
In
the playoffs, and it didn't help him that his quarterbacks were fucking cheeks. So
well, that was the thing. You'd go in those games, just say, we just got to stop Barry. That's it.
We just have. It's one man, and it's going to take all 11 of us, but it's one man. And so the offensive coordinator, I don't think there's a magic number. I don't think if we ran it 22 times or 27, we would have won or whatever. I just know, clicking on the Ravens tab, that 8, 3, 2, and 3 for a total of 16 attempts, half of which are by your quarterback, ain't gonna fucking do it. And
you got to at least stick with your bread and butter, man. Like there's an old saying that you force it down their throat running until they stop you. Then you go to something else.
It's a game where everybody was wrong. I had Baltimore winning a nail biter. Some people were like, it's on the board that Baltimore is going to win by 17. Okay, anything could happen.
I asked the guy at work before I started, because I was working that day, and I said, he's a Ravens fan. Like, please tell me the Ravens are going to win today. He says, oh yeah, man, they're going to win by 21. I was like, really? I was shocked by the answer. I was like, I wasn't opposed to Baltimore winning, but by 21, that's a stretch.
If that happens, it's most likely that there's a fluky play at the end to expand that score. It's not what the game looked like.
I mean, Mahomes would have the worst game of his life,
his career, or get hurt. Right? That's a more likely thing. Is he gets hurt, the backup comes in, shits the bed. Because he's gotten hurt before in the playoffs, and his backup has come in and played well. I think they did that against the Browns, actually. Fuck Cleveland, pieces of shit. I fucking hate that team so much, and I hate that city. The only thing that I dislike about living in Kentucky is that I am closer to Cleveland than I was living in Illinois. Fucking shithole city. Only thing that came out of there that was any good was LeBron James and Halle Berry. Fucking assholes. Anyway, so other than Cleveland being a fucking punchline and them being losers forever, Sean Watson contract, LOL. I look at that game and look, I am not trying to absolve Lamar, because up until that triple coverage turnover, I was like, I think he's doing about as well as I could realistically expect. That turnover in the game was,
know me and my opinions on Lamar and how I feel about him, but I didn't come out of that game thinking he was the problem. Like, defensively, despite the great shutdown in the second half, dude, you did not do anything to stop Kelsey. That's like the biggest thing you have to worry about, like in the passing game. Like, I would have rather Rice become a bigger factor than Kelsey. Like, you have to shut Kelsey down.
Make the rookie beat you. And
yeah.
I think it was arrogance, because Hamilton had not given up a touchdown all year to a tight end. I know Hamilton is seen as the best safety in football right now, but to take a safety and to put him one-on-one, no, Simmons is overrated. Simmons is overrated. Simmons is over. He's over. He's the only thing he's the only thing you have, so you cling to him with your feeble roster. You're feeble.
You're feeble
with no pass rushers.
Gets this. Watts down here.
At what? At coverage? Because I would agree. I would agree. I would agree. He's a little bit better than Watt in coverage. Most people don't even know who Simmons is. I'll just say that. Maybe it's because maybe
they know his brother Richard Simmons.
I don't think that's his brother. I can't prove that to you, but skeptical I am. Putting a single safety on Travis Kelce is a wild thing to do. I don't know who the greatest.
You're telling him I can shut your ass down.
I would not put Ed Reed by himself consistently on Travis Kelce.
Because Ed would probably lose. Ed was a risk taker. So, like,
Ed was a risk taker.
If he misses, boy, Kelsey's going the whole distance.
He might be the goat at safety. I'm just saying that Kelce is a guy who is basically a wide receiver, but he's built like a tight end, a non-blocking tight end, but a tight end nonetheless. Right. And he runs great routes. He's still fast. He runs unconventional. We all know who and what he is, and yada. Like, a lot of people are saying he's the GOAT, and the argument is not one that I agree with, but it is not a bad argument.
Especially it's not. I just want someone to punch him in the dick.
I would fear for their safety, for that is a large, strong man. That is a.
I don't care. I'd do it anyway. It's a rivalry thing for me. Punch his motherfucker in the dick.
I don't think that would end well for you, and I would not want you to do that.
I would. All right, let's talk about the next game on the list. We already know
the Super Bowl.
No, we haven't talked about the Niners and Lions yet.
I thought we were with the play calling and the fourth down and all the Dan Campbell stuff.
Well, I want to get into
here. Some clips. Yeah.
We got to watch some of this. Yeah. See, there's some great running. That's what team does when they run. Yeah. Just hand that shit off, like Kyle Orton.
Oh God. Don't you ever say that name.
Yeah.
The fainting goat. I like Kyle Orton. He's a good guy.
He is good
quarterback. This was when I was scared for San Francisco.
Yeah,
that was some Philadelphia-esque defense right there.
Oof.
By the way, a credit to him for keeping his balance.
Yeah.
Oh, the dance.
Everybody's happy early.
Well, look at that.
I have to push back on some of the Purdy hate though, because everyone keeps saying, yeah, Purdy's got all this talent and great coaching. And yeah, he does, but I can go through any fucking Super Bowl winning team and show you the same shit.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Pause that real quick. If you could go back to that last play.
Okay.
If you'd be so kind.
This one?
So leave it there for a second. Brock Purdy is playing on the best overall roster in football, in my opinion. It's definitely up there. Okay. That I think we can all agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Ayuk is going to get paid. He made the All-Pro. Debo has made an All-Pro. They're an excellent 1-2 punch. They're up there with any 1-2 punch in football. I think we can all agree with that. McCaffrey is an elite back. A lot of people say he's the best. I would probably say that he's the best. Okay, that's not a controversial.
I think he's the best multi-dimensional
back. He's a top 5 runner. He's a top 5 pass catcher. Holy shit, it's like I had a stroke. He could block pretty well. Like he is an elite back. When he's healthy, I think he's the best back in football. There's some other guys as well, but it's not a hot take. I'm going to say what I think. I think he's the best back in football. Okay, Kittle is a Hall of Fame tight end. I think the stats make it pretty clear he's a Hall of Famer. Trent Williams, I think, is still the best left tackle in football. The weak part of their offense is the right side of the offensive line. No one has a perfect roster. You can live with that. This is what I'm getting at. There are people who big up Brock Purdy, and he should not be in the MVP conversation, in my opinion. I think that's a little bit too much. But it's a new system where you vote for 5 guys. So there are going to be more guys included in that. I don't think it's insane that he's in it either. This is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
For this season, this is a weird season with all the quarterback injuries and whatnot. He is clearly, in this individual season, I'll stress that again, a top 5 guy. Overall, because of this year and what he did last year, you have to put him in the top 10. Where I get frustrated with people is they do these things where they're like, he reminds me of this Hall of Famer, this Hall of Famer, this Hall of Famer, and then they say, oh, but I'm not comparing it. And look at that. Look, he paid a steep price to throw that ball.
Yeah, he did.
He got
popped
hit.
Pretty good there.
He got hit. There's no joke needs. And look, and then there's just that man, just doing what that man does.
C-Mac, yeah.
That just running the ball.
And the funny thing is, they had some success early, but they just couldn't get in the end zone.
Yeah.
Detroit was kind of running at will on them, and
how quickly that changed.
I was really shocked. I was on my way home when I looked at the score. It was like 14-0. I'm like, wow.
I
texted her. I said, "Your Lions might get to the Super Bowl."
I was in danger. I was in severe. I was in a weird spot because I was rooting for San Francisco because I'm a Shanahan guy.
Right.
But rooting against Detroit to get to the Super Bowl also feels wrong.
Yeah.
But
that was part of my dilemma. Like, I like Purdy a lot.
Yeah. You like
Purdy. But I was like, Lions have a great storied year. So I'd be kind of happy.
Purdy is going to end up being better than what he normally would have been, not just because of the talent, but because he got to operate in a system and learn it. By the way, watching him bounce and skip off his helmet made my stomach churn. I felt
break his neck.
Yeah, I was just like, oh God. That's a face mask they didn't call, but fuck you, he doesn't need you to call it.
He's a tough little runner, man, but you always worry about him getting hurt.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that's been different about San Fran this year is that they've been staying healthy.
They've been healthier. Boom. There you go. We all knew he was going to do that. I think he got 2 this game. Flex on him. Let them know that they stink ass hoe, as Jesus would say. Jesus never said that. And then this is what I was impressed by. It's like, dang, they just got a touchdown, and then Detroit's like, yep, we're just going to run the ball.
Yeah,
we're just going to run the ball.
Right back down at you.
And then now that we've ran the ball, you have to play us honest. There's Amon-Ra St. Brown. That man is actually a demon. He is actually a demon.
He's the Egyptian god.
He is the god of fucking you to death. That was
defense there.
That was a roughing penalty in the regular season that they let go. I don't have an issue with. I'm just telling you what that is.
Yeah, right.
It's the playoffs. I have no problem with it.
Boom, nice
Porta, he paid a price.
That's actually the one though where the defender got hurt. Porta got up and he looked at him like
Greenlaw. He almost, I think he separated his shoulder.
Yeah.
Sure Laporta is a big, strong man. 9-1 on 10+ yard plays.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's they got you. That's my boy Gibbs.
Nice.
By the way, I had him on every fantasy team this year. I was never saying I didn't think he was going to be good. I was just saying that I didn't
Robinson would be better.
I
think that's the thing. These teams like choose guys they think are going to fit their system.
Yeah,
so.
I mean it worked. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong. There's Brock Purdy scrambling, making a play. I don't know if Brock really knew who he was throwing to there. I'm not going to lie to you.
You're right.
I'm not going to lie to you there. I'm not even a huge Brock Purdy guy because he's typically not my type of quarterback, but I think the hate that he gets is a little bit more intense than the praise that he gets that I don't think he deserves. His next gen stats about like deep ball passing and whatnot, he's not a game manager. He's also, if you watch him play, I don't think he's as big time of a quarterback as they say either. Doesn't have a huge arm. That was a horrible pass.
That was crazy.
That was a terrible pass. That
should have been intercepted on there.
That probably is the difference in the game.
Right there, yeah.
Even if he just drops the interception and then it doesn't get that. But look, Brock Purdy's like, oh, thank God I didn't throw a pick. I'm gonna throw into double coverage, but it was shitty double coverage, so it doesn't really count. That's Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk's gonna make $25 million a year next year. That's now they can't run the ball.
Yeah,
he fumbled, and this is where every Lions fan said, "Oh no, we suck again."
Yeah,
that fumble right there.
Bring out the bags.
That's Brock Purdy. That's Brock Purdy running. Brock Purdy is a brave man. You know he's horrified.
He's like, someone just block for me, please.
Yeah. He's like, why am I not baseball sliding? That's
it is kind of cool though. I was watching the game when I got home and seeing Brock's parents out in the stands. They were really excited for him. That was a nice thing to see.
Yeah, I agree. It's 24-24. What's Jared Goff going to do? He's going to drop back. He's going to sling that bitch. The replay skipped ahead because we're time travelers.
Yeah, we fast.
We zoom, boys. Brock has the ball. He is going to run. He is going to get
sacked.
He is going to have a large man fall on him, which is basically how you can describe every football play. There's a kick
by 3, so this is
Buffalo doesn't know what happened. They watched that play. They didn't know you could get points off of a kick. I shouldn't make that joke. That's mean.
Beautiful
Jared
pass. Oh, see, that's bad. Oh, he got it still. That's right, because he took it back from the defender. That should have been a pick.
That should have been taunting. Should have been a pick, but you can't really throw taunting there.
So this is after they've already passed up the field goal.
By 3. That's Christian McCaffrey again on his head. God, why is that happening? That's Christian McCaffrey
bowling in for the touchdown. This is they're up by 10 now.
He's also a demon.
And now we have 3 minutes.
Oh, that's Elijah Mitchell. Yeah, because he came off the play that.
Oh, that's right, Mitchell. Yeah.
They didn't show
the onside kick they couldn't get after they got within.
And that's the other thing too. So the change to the onside kick rules has drastically changed how you operate at the end of the game at a deficit.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what was it like? Wave used to keep track of it. Shout out to our brother Wave. Like after the rule change, it dipped from I don't know if it was 20 or 30. It was a number that was not insignificant to 5 or 6 or 7% or something. Actually, hold on. Let me. I find this interesting enough. Onsides kick attempt success rate
can't be that high.
3.2. According to Saints Wire, teams now have a 3.2 success rate. 3.2. It's better than 0. But
yeah, that's true.
But
it's true.
But yeah, it's Brock Purdy to me is the most interesting part of that team. Aside from Kyle Shanahan really more interesting.
Well, I think he's going to be the difference in the Super Bowl because he's young, he hasn't been there. Is it going to be too big of a moment for him?
I don't think it'll be too big of a
I fully expect Kansas City to be prepared. It's just a matter of whether or not Kyle's learned from his last loss to Reed and company. But the thing is, I think Kyle actually has a better quarterback than Garoppolo here. So
Jesus, yes, yeah, absolutely. Brock Purdy, first off, the playmaking ability that he has with his feet, which came to light in that game, is significantly better than Garoppolo. Secondly, Garoppolo as a deep ball passer was never bad statistically, but it was unimpressive. And with Purdy, even though younger Jimmy probably has a better arm, Brock is just better at it. There are some guys who have a huge arm, and that's all that they're really special with, right? Joe Flacco, good on seam routes, but it was the deep ball that really that kept him in the league, if I'm being honest. McNabb is actually one of the best deep ball passers ever, that and his mobility. God, I'd love to see that man play in today's era. some of these rule changes would have been beautiful for him. What Brock Purdy is, what people I think need to understand, is that you are not just your surroundings. Obviously, it would be Brock Purdy would be much happier in San Fran than he would in Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Sweet God, yeah. And it's not just your talent. Like for instance, here's a guy that people are trying to comp Purdy to, and this is where I get frustrated. I want to comp him to a Hall of Famer, but not try to hold him to a big boy quarterback level. You can't do it both ways. It's a Nick Wright thing again, right? Like I cited to earlier.
Right.
People want to say Steve Young or Joe Montana, or they want to say, a Drew Brees because the size thing, right? This is what I'm saying. If you think he's a big boy quarterback, he has to get the same criticism as the rest of the guys get, because the rest of the guys, Joe Burrow, bad line, okay? Better now, but bad line when they made the Super Bowl. But there wasn't a better 1-2 punch in football at wide receiver, Chase and Higgins, right? You can still argue that if you can still make that argument now. Though I don't know if Higgins will be in Cincinnati. They had Joe Mixon. They had a couple of decent tight ends. They had a good play caller. They had yada yada yada. They had all these things on offense. He didn't have the line, but with respect to Debo and Ayuk, I think Higgins and Ayuk are pretty much the same guy, level of talent and play. I think Chase is probably the better guy there. Okay. You look at Philly last year with Brown, who's a stud, Smith's a stud. You got all these guys have these things. And that's your point. If in today's NFL, and you're in the Super Bowl, you probably have a good quarterback and you probably have some good guys with them to play with because you're fucking supposed to. I never cheered for Tom Brady more than when he left New England. One of the reasons he left New England was him and Bill were fighting and whatnot. But he was right. He called bullshit. He was like, who am I fucking throwing to? I can still play. I always thought that Bill held resentment towards him for losing the first Super Bowl to the Giants. And they went out and got him those weapons, Wes Welker and Randy Moss. And to me, it's like, no, what happened to him is just what happened to Peyton Manning. I have all these weapons and these great players or whatnot.
Well, if I recall,
pass rush beat the shit out of me. What do you want from me?
Is that the one where it's like the guy caught on his helmet?
Yeah, that was the first
one.
It
did. But if you look at that play, like so many people don't talk about it, it's the one time you see Eli become John Elway. He avoided a sack like two or three times in that play.
It was technically he was sacked because that was the first they put it in the clutch, but they weren't going to call that because it's the Super Bowl. Which brings me
and so he made a great play, but it's like if they get him down, that game's over.
It is.
That was fourth down. So
it absolutely is. And if he doesn't, it takes a miracle catch. They cut that guy, by the way. I can't remember his name. He was not a very good player. And Rodney Harrison was a good safety. He was older, but he was still a good safety. You just could not get that. Sometimes random shit happens. Look, the Lions win that game as bad as it got for them in the second half, if not for the deflected interception helmet Ayuk thing. And so for me, what I want people to stop acting like Brock Purdy is an elite top 5 guy, because he's not. You can you can watch the games and tell that he's not. I want people to stop acting like he can't play. He is somewhere between 6 and 12. And you know me, and you know how I look at quarterbacks. I think I think you're very good if you're between 6 and 12. Because let's remove Brock from the picture just for a second. Let's say he doesn't exist. All right. Let's take a step back from this year and just kind of talk about in general, right? So your top 5, you're going to have Mahomes. He's number 1. And after him, there's going to be a Burrow, an Allen, a Lamar. Those 4 are pretty much entrenched in most people's top 5s, right? Then you're going to have guys like, you can make the Aaron Rodgers argument, right? You can make the Herbert argument. There's some people who really like what Lawrence has done. There's Stafford, there's Dak, there's Hurts. Okay, so there's a lot of guys who are good at quarterbacking. They might quarterback differently. So and then you take Purdy and you put him somewhere in there. Why can't it be, if you believe he's that guy, why can't it be he's on his way to being that guy? He's got to put in a little bit more work, right?
Yeah.
Or if you think that he's not it, why can't it just be, You know what? I think he's the 14th guy, the 15th guy. I think he's the 12th guy, the 13th guy. Why is it either he is this stud, and it's not just the media that does it. I expect them to do it because they need talking points. It's fun. Some of the sports shows are more about fun and entertainment. It's like this, like we're talking shit. But even though we cuss more and we make dick jokes, a lot of dick jokes, it's almost like we're more serious somehow. That's my frustration. If Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl, and the Niners are more than capable of winning the Super Bowl, you're going to hear some of is he actually the best quarterback in football? And it's going to make me want to put my head in the oven. And if he loses, then there's going to be a lot of, I told you he's not any good. As if, like, I can't, it's one of my other rants too. Jim Kelly never won a Super Bowl. Jim Kelly is better than most franchises' best quarterback ever.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I'm rooting.
Here's how I look at it right now.
Yes, drop some knowledge. Take me to church.
We talked about how Montana are young and they were trying to debate who he's like. I'm like, to be honest, right now, he reminds me of Steve Bono. Do you remember him? The third one on that roster?
I do.
And Bono never really became anything. Now Purdy might become something, and Purdy's played very well, but his size, his mobility, it reminds me a lot of Bono. And I think I remember the Chiefs actually signed Bono.
It went very poorly. It went very poorly.
Right. But they saw, because that system that San Fran had made Bono look pretty decent. So if Steve Young got hurt or whatever, Bono would come in and play well. But it's a system thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
But right now, the way that Brock plays reminds me a little bit of Bono. Either way, you're right. Like, if they win, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's now going to be a Hall of Famer, but if they lose, it doesn't mean he's shit either. So it's like, there's probably going to be a myriad of reasons why they lose the Super Bowl if they do.
He is a guy.
Now, Brock, right now, he's only in his second year. So, like I said, if the moment's too big and he shits to bed, well, join the club, man. Elway fucking looked abysmal in some Super Bowls.
We saw what happened to Dan Marino.
Yeah,
we saw
it happens even to the best of them. But
Peyton Manning had it. Tom Brady's had some not great Super Bowls too. And he is the GOAT to the vast majority of football consumers. I think the other thing too, and I want to be especially fair to Brock. I watched I can't remember if it was Chase Daniels or Caleb Haney. It was one of those. I like watching retired quarterbacks breakdown film.
Right.
And so they're talking like he's throwing this deep pass, and he goes, "This is a deep pass. Looks really impressive, right?" He's like, "It's not impressive. It's a seam route. This guy's open. He's schemed open. Boom, 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 boom." He's like, he hits this guy, and he even made a joke. He's like, "I was horrible. I hit that pass." He's like, "I was not any good. Brock's way better than me." He's like, "This isn't impressive." He's like, "This is what's impressive about the play." Second year in, read, boom, hits that guy. Guy was schemed open, but he was the third or fourth read in quick progression. So your mental game can elevate you to where past your physical abilities. And would I prefer that if his arm was 20% stronger, he wouldn't have been a 7th round pick?
Yeah.
Would I prefer that he was an inch taller and weighed 10 to 15 more pounds? Yeah, I would. Would I prefer if he was a step faster? Yeah, I would. I absolutely would. But if he was playing, I'm trying to think, like, what's a super mediocre team? Like the most average, run-of-the-mill team in the league. Hold on. Which team won 7 games this year?
Broncos.
In the NFL. Oh, okay, sure. Let's do that. Let's say he's the Broncos quarterback. And let's say Sean Payton doesn't fucking hate him. Because apparently that's the thing. You can't tell, but I just winked at you. But I'm wearing glasses with a glare, so you definitely can't. I winked at you, fucker. It happened. It happened. So he's out there. He's throwing to Judy, who I think is a pretty solid receiver. He's throwing to Sutton, who had a resurgence year. Shout out for Sutton, right? Maybe one day Tim Patrick isn't snake bitten. He gets to play football again. Playing with a very mediocre line, yada, yada, yada. We'd be looking at him and going like, wow, he threw like 24 touchdowns, 13 picks, 4,000, 3,800, 4,100 yards, somewhere in there. I don't fucking know. He looks pretty good. I wonder how good he could be. This is as good as he's probably ever going to be, but his stats are bonkers. He's probably going to get better as a player and have years with worse stats because the team's going to be a little bit worse around him. Right. So what I look at it is, I always want to be, if I'm going to be wrong, I want it to be because I gave a player too much credit because they're the ones on the field and football is a brutal game. And so I do that. You know me. I've talked about how I do that for draft evaluation. And a lot of times it makes me look like an asshole. But then a lot of times it also makes me go like, hey, guys, I don't know. I told you about that Lamar fellow. He got 2 of them MVPs. Better than Kenny Pickett, and so on and so forth. Zay Flowers. I was like, I want to give him credit for everything that he's done. I know the competition wasn't great. Thus far, it's made me look real smart. Josh Rosen happened. That wasn't a good fucking look. That was a thing that happened. Bradley Chubb is somewhere in the middle where he's been really good, but he's hurt. And he's better than what the stats say. And this year he had like 11 sacks and 6 forced fumbles. He popped his Achilles. I felt horrible for him. Jalen Phillips, the Miami guy that they got, he popped his ACL or his Achilles. I feel bad for him. But what I'm saying is, we can agree that it's a little weird that Purdy's in the MVP discussion. We should be able to agree that it's probably because the voting system has changed. We should give him credit for making the throws that he's making because there are a lot of guys who are better than him who haven't had as much success than him, and it's not just because he's being carried. I'm a Herbert guy. I think Herbert is a much better player than Purdy. Right now, it is not impossible to validate that opinion, but I do have to do a little bit of work around it with it too. And I was wrong about Herbert. I watched his college tape and he was missing guys. I thought that he was just a guy with a big arm who was hitting dudes when they were open in college, but not necessarily open in the pros. And he made me look like a jackass. And I'm happy to be wrong about that because I still, by the way, said draft him in the first round because he's that talented. It's like that's how it goes. Purdy's the inverse of that. And so I'll just wrap up like this. At a certain point, what happens on the field has to fucking matter. And he wasn't great in the playoffs. He had a really shitty game, but he's been pretty clutch and he has turned it around. And so my concern for him is he has led a charmed life with drop picks. And if that changes and you give Mahomes extra possessions, that is bad. That's my expert analysis. Throwing picks to a Patrick Mahomes offense is a bad way to try to win a game.
So who do you pick to win the Super Bowl?
Oh, man, can't we do that next week? Are we doing a show next week?
We can if you want.
Why don't we save that for next week? Let's do a super deep dive, break down all the matchups and
in case there's any injuries or anything.
Injuries and stuff like that. Do you want a prediction right now that I'm not married to?
Sure.
I'll give you a little tease.
I mean, we can always reevaluate.
Right. Yeah. If Chris Jones tears his ACL in practice, then that's going to change how I view the game a lot. I'm leaning towards the Chiefs. Off the strength of not just that defense, but that offense is starting to put it together and they're starting to find ways to force the ball to Kelsey, which makes up for some of the lack of weapons. And I will say this. I will not be shocked if Rashee Rice has 5-6 catches, 50 to 70 yards, and a score. Win or loss. That kid's going to be a problem. And it helps that he's playing with the best quarterback in the world and one of the best coaches ever, but we can say he's pretty good. Found myself way more defensive of Brock Purdy than I would have normally been. I don't know why.
Well, we all know that deep down, I want the Niners to win. Like,
Oh
I like
Jesus,
Purdy.
yeah. You like Purdy. You like
I like
Shanahan.
Purdy. Yeah, I know.
You
I
hate
love
the
it.
Chiefs.
C-Mac. I like all of them.
And you love Tom Brady. And you love
Yeah.
Tom Brady. And Mahomes is only a Super Bowl 2 away from being the GOAT.
Well, he's got a little ways to go, but
I'll tell you this, and I know you will disagree with me. This isn't me trolling at all. To me, if he gets to 3, he's the GOAT. Because to me, if you get to 3,
quit being silly.
It's not being silly.
Quit being silly.
It's not being silly. After you get to 3,
after you get to 3, man.
So much winning, it comes down to what you do. Then I'm solely judging you what you do on the field, and there's no one better than him that's played on the field. I watched. This is something I want to do with you. I think we should do it off camera.
If you're gonna give that little munchkin fucking afro wearing motherfucker,
they're calling him fat, by the way, because the shirt off pick. Have you seen that?
Mahomes? They're calling Mahomes fat?
Yeah, they're calling him.
Wow.
They're calling him chubby.
That dude's skinny as fuck.
He
needs to eat a burger with no ketchup.
With no what? You don't like ketchup?
I'm laughing because he's always got ketchup. That's his thing. But if you're gonna award that bitch fucking GOAT after 3 Super Bowls, then John Elway's the GOAT. Fuck you.
Hell no. Why? But here's what I'll say in response to that. Nobody has Bradshaw ahead of him, and Bradshaw has 4. And a lot of people don't have Montana ahead of him, and Montana has 4.
Ahead of who?
Mahomes. Yeah.
Who's they? What fucking moron is out there saying they?
Oh, wait, hold on. Well, I'm that moron. I'm the one that said they, you bully.
Oh, you're the one making that claim.
No. What I'm saying is, like, when I read articles, when I watch the clips, when I read, because you know me, I belong to many message boards and many sports pages and whatnot. There are many folks who are saying that it's about 50-50 with Montana. About half the fans and the pundits and all of that saying that Montana is still ahead of Mahomes. He shouldn't be. And then there's half that are correct and says that Mahomes is a better, superior quarterback than Montana. What I'm saying is, you get to 3, you've won 3 Super Bowls. If we're not going to say that Bradshaw at 4 is better than Mahomes at 2, if half the folks, or they, are going to say that Montana at 4 isn't as good as Mahomes at 2, and Mahomes is a much better player than Montana, then what's the difference between 3 and 4? And for the record, and just so everybody knows, I'm a Steelers fan, as we should know, but Elway has 2, and he's better than Bradshaw, and he has 2, and he was much better than Montana.
Okay, but your argument is, your basic argument is like Mahomes is a better quarterback than Montana, but not necessarily the greatest.
Right now, to me,
because here's the thing, right? So. Well, Marino has been to 1, but he lost. But he lost to Montana. So if I kind of see some of your point, like if you were to take Mahomes and put him on those 49er teams, they would have still won. So probably won convincingly too. But I would still put Elway above Mahomes. Like, I think Elway was still Elway carried that fucking team to like 3 Super Bowls, even though they lost.
This, and I value.
I don't know. I just don't know if Mahomes can do that same shit. Like, I don't.
Well, so here's what I would say, and just for full context, my GOAT list is different than a lot of people's GOAT list. Right? I have Manning at 1.
Right.
We've talked about this on the show, and I have Elway at 2. Right. So my list has 2 guys at 1 and 2 who are on most people's Rushmore or top 5, depending on how you want to slice it. Right. And I have Brady at 3. Brady at 3 because it took him a long time to be an actual big boy quarterback, because I think the cheating scandals matter a lot. I also think that losing to Eli and Nick Foles in the Super Bowl are rough, and he needed
shut your fucking face over there.
I'm not even trying to razz you. For me, this is what I'm getting at, and this is just a personal look at it, right? I have to concede that Super Bowls matter. I don't think that they should, because it's the ultimate team sport, but they do. And so I'm not going to operate so far away from everybody else, because it makes conversations almost impossible, right? So to me, this is my logic. Nobody has Bradshaw in their top 5, but he has 4 rings. Okay.
Great.
4. He's made multiple All-Pro teams. He was the 80s decade number 1 quarterback. That was one of the AP awards given to him, right?
Right.
So he's obviously a Hall of Famer. But everybody knows it took him a long time, even by standards then, to be a big boy quarterback. He had the best line in football. He had all the Hall of Fame, yada, yada, yada. The Steel Curtains you could argue that they're the best team ever, right? Like still to this day you could. And they're up there.
Right.
I don't know if they are, but they're up there. So no one's really going to push Bradshaw as tied with Montana, right? I don't think you can take Montana over Mahomes because there's nothing that Montana did on the field that Mahomes couldn't do. There's plenty that Mahomes did that Montana couldn't. And on top of that, if you break down into clutch stats, this is something I might bring up like next show. Mahomes' clutch stats are actually better than Montana's. And he has almost as many playoff wins already in his career as Joe Montana. I think if he wins the Super Bowl, they're tied. And he's 6 years in, 5 as a starter. So to me, if he wins, it's like, yeah, Montana, you have 1 Super Bowl over him. But in 2 of your runs, like that big throw, the catch against the Cowboys, the reason why that was a come behind game was because Montana had that loaded team and he still sucked. What separates Mahomes from a lot of those guys is he was amazing from day one, albeit he spent a year on the bench. Why I elevate John so much is because John, and I know this comment's going to irritate you, and I'm not trying to, but you know how I feel about this guy. He's the LeBron James of football. It's like, here's this trash ass team, or I should take that back. Here's this solid above average team that I am carrying past its expiration point to the Super Bowl against the loaded conference, where I'm playing against guys that I'm as smart as, I'm more talented than, I have to work harder to carry the team than they do, but they're surrounded by all pro guys, and I have the 3 amigos. 3 amigos, Jerry Rice, what am I going to do? I will link that, and I value that heavily. I've always valued that heavily. I will take it a step further in the logical progression. What Mahomes is doing now, carrying a team where Kelsey is amazing. He has 1 real weapon. Rice is a nice weapon, but he's been developing all the year, right? Pacheco's a good back. He's not great. The offensive line is okay. The interior is good. The tackles aren't. The defense is good. He's proven that he can win in shootouts. He's proven he can win as MVP. He's done all the big boy stuff. He is now showing that he can operate the system at a high level and win a Super Bowl. That's what he did last year to a lesser extent, and it's what he's doing now. So out the gate, if I have a guy who can win 3 Super Bowls, the worst he's ever done is make the AFC Championship game. That's the earliest he's been eliminated. He's got, I think, 2 MVPs. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just 1. He might just have 1. But he's got Super Bowl MVPs, and he does things on the field that nobody else has done. If he retired now, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. What do I care about those other guys in their rings? Because let's bring up the specter that's looming over all of this. It's Brady. Well, Brady got 2 rings as a game manager. The first ring, people say 3. 3 is unfair. 3 is factually untrue. 3 is factually untrue. He got 2. He got the miracle run where he threw 1 touchdown pass. They beat the greatest show on turf because they're cheating. Then the next year, Brady was so great that they won 9 games and missed the playoffs. That should tell you how great he was then. Then they eke out a win off of Vinatier's leg the second time against the Panthers. That's 2 rings. So there is no quarterback in NFL history now that Stabler's in that has 2 Super Bowl wins as a starter who's not in the Hall of Fame. So he was gifted basically a Hall of Fame start to his career. He's got 7. That is a chunk of his Super Bowls. I'm not trying to diminish what happened, but I am trying to articulate what happened, because we talk about Brady's career like he was always the guy. Like when he broke the passing record and everyone was saying it was just Moss. He threw 50. Moss had 23. I'm like, yeah, but he's throwing it to that guy. Like that guy that's wide open, he's throwing the ball to, and it's a touchdown pass. That is literally how the game of football is played. You can't bash him for that and then love Peyton, one of my guys, for throwing 13 to Marvin Harrison and getting 1,600 yards off of him or whatever. It's the same thing. It's just that 23 touchdowns is a whole lot better than 13, and 13 is amazing. I just view what Mahomes has done as a player. And if he gets to 3, definitely 4, but if he gets to 3, he's done so much winning that he's shown you that he's a winner. And it's a team game that I now just want to talk about who he is as a quarterback. And he's just simply better. I know the Brady guys, and you're about the best Brady guy that I know, by the way. And I say that with love. Because a lot of Brady guys are just like 7 rings and then they shit themselves. What the Brady guys like to do, they do these silly things like, well, Super Bowl and AFC Championship game. Ha, 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 ha. And I say Eli, and then they get mad. And they go, well, it's a team game. Blah, 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 blah. It's crazy how that works. I cannot look at a guy like Tom Brady and dismiss anything that he did. I don't care that he was immobile. It didn't matter that he wasn't fast because of the way that he ran his offense. It didn't matter that he didn't have a great arm. He still hit the deep throws. Now, he threw less of them because he was a smart guy and he knew that he didn't have the Brett Favre arm. He also didn't make the Brett Favre mistakes. And to me, when I look at Mahomes, I pulled up a YouTube video of his best 100 plays. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, my guys, Mahomes, Elway, and Elway. Probably one of the reasons why you like me so much. Those are my top 3. How many of these plays could they make? And so Manning, it's like, oh, that's rough because he just didn't have the mobility. Okay, fine. Elway, there are only a handful of plays that Mahomes made that I didn't think Elway could make, mostly because even in his era, you wouldn't think to try that shit. But there was still a couple that I think Mahomes would make more often than not. And I just go, fuck it, man. It's Terrell Davis. Fuck the longevity. Fuck the all-time stats. Just tell me how good you are at your best for a chunk of time. Show me that you can win. And then that's all that matters is who you are. And by that measurement, to me, it's Mahomes. If he gets to 4, a lot of people are going to say Mahomes. And if he gets to 5, it's going to be Mahomes as the default dude. Oh, man. I'm probably pulling for Mahomes. I'm probably pulling for the Chiefs. I really like Shanahan, but I'm going to edge it to Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Mahomes.
The reason why Brady, and there's 2 reasons why he's still the GOAT.
Yeah.
The first is he went from New England to Tampa and still won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing on its own.
Yeah.
He also had like a lot of experience behind him.
Well, but Mahomes has experience now. So, I mean.
He also did when he was ancient. Like, there was questions about his durability, too, to be fair.
Brady also owns Mahomes.
He doesn't own him. That's not accurate.
Owns him. Yes, he does.
It's I can dispel that very quickly. So he loses to Mahomes, but for the D Ford offsides, and then they go to overtime. Brady gets the ball first, and he wins an overtime game against Mahomes in Mahomes' first year as a starter. He then goes plays him in the Super Bowl. Mahomes has playing on one leg and he's missing 3 offensive linemen.
Can't come back and start using excuses.
No, I'm not making. All I said was straight facts, baby. I'm a facts guy. I'm a facts and logic guy. And here's the thing: if you're going to say that he owns him, then Eli's the GOAT because he owns Brady. Eli beat Tom
2
Brady.
games. No, see, the thing is, Eli beat him in 2 games. He never beat him outside of that.
But Mahomes has beaten Tom Brady outside of the playoffs as well. He beat him in 2 Super Bowls as huge underdogs. That is a fact.
It's not the same thing.
It's exactly. It's worse. It's worse because it's in the Super Bowl. He beat him twice in the Super Bowl with the greatest offense of all time. Eli beat him. And then they had a rematch in the Super Bowl 4 years.
Which Welker dropped a pass that would have been the game winner.
But that's an excuse by your own logic.
No, because I didn't say he was hurt. He just had to drop passes.
But okay, so he dropped. But so Welker dropping a pass is an excuse. But him having a bad ankle and being out 3 offensive linemen. When I saw Tom Brady with a healthy line get shellacked by the Giants pass rush.
Yeah.
Your argument is bad. Your argument is objectively bad. He doesn't own him. He doesn't own him. He doesn't own him.
Yes, he does. He beat him fucking left, right, dude. Like, Mahomes can never get past his ass.
Never get past him. How? He beat him in an overtime game when he never got the ball back his first year as a starter, and then he beat him when he was out 3 starting linemen in the Super Bowl. How is that saying, "Oh, I own you," when his defense is stonewalling him? The reason why I bring up Eli isn't that Eli isn't even close to Tom Brady or Mahomes. The reason why I bring up Eli is that what Brady lost to was the defense. He didn't lose to Eli in the same way that his brother didn't lose to Brady. He lost to the Belichickian defense. Then years later, what happened in that matchup with Brady versus Manning, Peyton in this case? Then he started beating the shit out of Brady, but it wasn't Manning doing it, it was the defense. The point is that what got Mahomes, it wasn't Brady, it was the defense and being throughout 3 offensive linemen. What happened to Mahomes was the exact same thing that happened to Tom. It's just that it happened against
we're just gonna put this rest though. Like, all things aside, regardless, I still don't think that Mahomes is the GOAT. Like, I just don't see it. It's not there yet. You still have to go and win a lot more Super Bowls to be even on that level.
How many does he have to win?
Well, what, Brady has 7? He has at least get 6 or 7. Definitely.
I think he has to get 5 because he's just so much better of an individual player, and he doesn't get to play.
He's more talented as a player, but that's not a good reason to say he's the greatest.
I'm not talking talent. I'm talking.
Well, but you kind of were, because that's how you pointed to Montana.
I'm talking about making plays, and it's not just talent. See,
Montana made plays, dude. I mean, look, it didn't look sexy. Well, but see, you're comparing a lot of different eras, man. Like, the quarterbacks back then were not as athletic as they are now,
which is kind of a boon for these guys. And then 30, 40 years from now, there'll probably be somebody.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Like, some people still stand by that Cam Newton's a great quarterback. He's not.
But he's
athletically gifted.
He had a great run as a quarterback. He was a great football player.
Right. Now we look at Lamar, like, obviously Lamar is exceptionally talented, but
2-time MVP.
Yeah,
probable 2-time MVP. That there's not been a player who's gotten 2 MVPs who has failed to make the Hall of Fame. Just for historical context. But Mahomes, it's not just the fact that Mahomes can do the left-handed stuff or has a better arm. It's the fact that he can do things, make the same subtle passes, the same subtle plays that Montana made, all of them, and give you big boy plays, and give you things you've never seen before, and to make plays that nobody else has, and to make more plays with his legs. At a certain point, like the circumstance of Tom Brady and the circumstance of Joe Montana are similar in this. If you were a quarterback, you're a first-round talent quarterback, whoever you want to be, all right, and you're sitting there going, I can go to any team and be coached by any coach for the entirety of my career, and somehow for this thought experiment, I know for a fact my career is not going to end in shambles because of injuries. I'm getting a full career. You could be like, am I going to go to the Bears with Ditka? Am I going to go to the Ravens? Do I want to go to the Stabler Raiders? No, you would be like, the Steelers had a great roster in Chuck Noll. That was pretty sweet. Oh, can I basically be a game manager for 2.5 Super Bowls and be under the Belichickian way? Can I go play with Bill Walsh? Can I? And that's the reality of the situation, is that before, if you want to know how good Mahomes is, his second year in, he's so dynamic. He's throwing for 50 touchdowns. And he took a coach that everybody was calling a loser. I was on those Bronco forums. Everybody loved to make fun of my fat brother Andy Reid, saying he was a loser. He's never going to get the big one. All of a sudden, a couple years later with Mahomes, there's 2 rings there. Mahomes can play inside of a system, but he can also play outside of the system and make plays. That's why I've always said that the same argument that I'm making for Mahomes is damn near identical to the same arguments I'm making for Elway over Brady and Montana. Because if Mahomes' talent is dispositive for him being the GOAT, then Elway, who still might be the most talented, like the talented quarterback pantheon, is Elway, Mahomes. It's crazy that he dropped. There's Newton, There's also a bunch of guys who are busts.
Hold on a sec. So you had Brady number 3.
Yeah.
Right? On your list?
Yeah.
So why isn't Mahomes ahead of him now?
Because you have to get a career's worth of winning. My concession to
but a lot of your argument is based upon his talent.
No, it's not just his talent. There's a lot of guys who are talented who don't pan out. It's
he's panned out. He can go in and lose this Super Bowl and never get to another one. He's still going to go in the Hall of Fame.
He's still going to go in the Hall of Fame, right? But it's my concession because honestly, I think if we lived in a logical world, a fair world where we removed emotion and love and passion from sports, we would see more lists where Dan Marino is ahead of guys with Super Bowl rings than we do now. I think that at a certain point, when I'm doing the comp between 3 and 4, I'm picking 4 because it's a beautiful number for me. It's the Montana number. It's the Bradshaw number. If I get to 3 rings and I'm just flat out better than everybody when it comes to playing this position, and I have a entire career's worth of winning, not just the 2 that gets you in the Hall, the extra one, the one that really bumps Aikman up the list, the one that Stabler needed to have been a first ballot guy, and the Stabler thing's a different conversation. Then at that point, it's like, bro, I have a career's worth of winning already. And I won as the man out the gate. What is it? Because at a certain point, it has to be about who you are as a player. And I will always take the guy who has a bunch of rings, because he has to, who has the numbers in the playoffs, and being the only guy who can do certain things. Because to me, Mahomes is just the next iteration of Elway. Those 2 are the same dudes.
Sure.
And I view Mahomes the same way that because gun to your head, Elway is better than Mahomes, right? Right now to you?
Yeah, I mean, but look,
what is it the same way?
I'd have to concede that if Mahomes is still young, if he gets 3 or 4 more Super Bowls, I would have no choice but to put him over Elway.
Okay,
literally.
Now
I don't know, if I took Elway and put him on this team with Reed, I don't know how that would play out.
It'd
It's
be beautiful.
It's a whole different era, but
it'd be beautiful because
the reality is
quarterback. People say that he was dumb, and I've always pushed back against that. He wasn't dumb. It was Elway. This is the narrative that I've heard. I'm just saying this is the narrative that I've heard because I was born in '87. I'm a '90s baby, right? So much of the knowledge that I have of the '90s isn't just being a youngin' and watching football with my dad. It's going back and watching games and all of that, right? Right.
I am his daddy.
Who's my you are not an Arab gentleman. You're very talented, but I do not believe you are from the Middle East.
Oh, do you want some slushies?
No, that's Indian, you fucking asshat. It's not quite.
I fucked up my joke.
You fuck. If you're gonna be playfully bigoted, at least get it right. You tease. Gun to your head.
G is Indian at work, and he's he moved here when he was about 8, but I didn't know that Indian people hate Pakistani people. It's a big rivalry. So there's this whole or Pakistani people hate Indian people. So there's this thing online about it's a video of all these young Pakistani elementary school kids saying "Oh, we love Pakistan, fuck India."
Boy. Oh,
so we always play that for G every day.
I'm going to pivot away from that so I can remain uncomfortable. I'm gonna gun to your head. Fuck everything. Fuck stats. Fuck rings.
Yeah, you fucking triggered me about 20 minutes ago.
So fuck all of that. Elway versus Brady. Who's better?
Elway.
Elway.
Let's be honest.
Well, see, the problem with me here is that, the last few years of Brady's career changed a lot about how I ranked him, but I still say to myself that, and this is sort of some of your argument, is that Elway is more talented.
And he did things that Tom could never do, right?
Yeah, I will, and that's probably my argument is I still use those first 3 Super Bowls where we lost, the teams that we had that Elway had to carry. I don't think Brady could have done that.
No, here's the thing with Brady too. Brady, and I don't have an issue with people saying that he's the GOAT either. But what I say,
I think that's my worry with Mahomes right now, because he kind of got dealt a nice card when he got into KC. You know, we didn't know what he was going to be like, but Reed's there. They already had a pretty strong team.
They had
even
Hill,
even though Alex Smith was there, but he wasn't the guy.
They were tough out every year. But here's the thing: Hill
became. But can Mahomes, like, if you were, like, in your opinion, if you would have taken Mahomes and put him on Carolina, like now, do you think he would be as successful as
he would be? An amazing quarterback. He would not be what he is now. We would be looking at him and going, man, could you imagine what he would look like if he was with Andy Reid? But if you took here, but here's the same thing. If I took Tom Brady and I put him on those first 3 years, the Lions of Matt Stafford, when Matt Stafford is on the sidelines shoving his shoulder back in, do you think a frailer, skinnier Tom Brady? I'm not saying Tom's not tough. That's another thing that I've always pushed back on. The concept that Tom Brady is not tough is very silly. He complained a lot to the refs. You know why he did? Because he was incentivized to. The same way that Braun does, the same way that Jordan did, the same way that Manning did. It is about winning. That's what you do. Look, sometimes motherfucker hits you in the back of the knees and you're like, flag.
Dude, Mahomes does it. Everybody learns from each other.
You're supposed to. The league has told you if you do this, you'll win more. So what is your job to do? To win games. Yeah, I think that Tom Brady is a lot like Brock Purdy in a way, that their full untapped potential was greatly helped by landing in a situation where they could be brought along. And the thing with Purdy now is, simply put, he's in a situation, the league's so much easier on quarterbacks that I don't think he's that much better than a young Brady. Maybe a little bit because coaching is better, right? But it's the easiest time to play quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah.
And that's why it's also a little bit easier and fairer to be harsher on quarterbacks because of that. But I look at Elway and I look at Montana and I go, why would I want you over Elway? Because if the issue with Elway is, hey, I need you to run the system, don't just chuck it deep, then that's a coaching thing that you work through.
I think we need to establish who
Jake Plummer
is the real GOAT here.
Jake Plummer. That's what you're gonna go with. Is our little Jake Plummer?
Is Missy a plumber guy?
Actually,
No, she's a Brian Greasy guy.
Oh. Why do you love losers, Missy? You married a winner. Why you married a winner?
Oh, damn, went for the jugular.
What'd she say?
She said, well, I married one.
Look who I married.
Yeah, you married a winner. He won you.
She's a loser.
No, he rolled in. He picked you up on his shoulders. He said, "Unga bunga, you my wife now." You said,
"Unga
yes,
bunga."
You said, "Yes, Daddy," and he married you. You were the prize. I care about, once you get your winning done, I just care about how good you are. And I cannot watch Brady and Elway and Mahomes play and go, yeah, Tom Brady was as good as those guys. I think the issue
is, or at least the conundrum for me is going to be, I never got to see Brady on a team. Like, once he went to Tampa, if they would have failed, then I would have said, okay, maybe there was some talk about him being successful just with Belichick.
But that's so unfair to Tom, because look, there's two parts to that.
Well, it is, but then at the same time, this is what I'm kind of getting at with Elway in those first 3 Super Bowls. Even though the teams weren't like deplorable,
they were good for the AFC,
right? But if like, let's say 2 years from now, Reed retires and the Chiefs have to struggle with keeping talent on a team, like, if I see Mahomes able to carry them to the playoffs, even if they don't get to the Super Bowl, that's going to change my perception with him a lot. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's the best quarterback in the league, bar none.
You've never downplayed him. As a matter of fact, I remember when he was drafted, you made fun of people. No one saw him coming, but I remember you were making fun of people who were acting like there was no chance he could be any good, even though he's a raw prospect, because he was with Andy Reid. And he's like, I guess we just don't remember all the guys that Reid has developed and gotten good seasons out of. And then it turns into
Matt
this.
was it Castle. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Oh God, Josh McDaniels, you
he was
asshole.
bleeding blood from a stone.
Yeah, it's like, so you have no arm, no mobility, you lack killer instinct, and you're kind of dumb. All right, give me 20 touchdowns and 7 picks. And Josh McDaniels is like, I want that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like where that came from. Jesus Christ.
That was terrible. I view Mahomes and Elway as pretty much the same guy, and Mahomes is just the one that came later.
Yeah, it is. And Mahomes technically has a little bit more mobility and athleticism than even Elway. But
so that's interesting. I think Elway was faster on a straight line. I think Mahomes is because Mahomes ran the same.
Stronger. He was just a stronger.
So hold on. John Elway 40 time. I'm curious as to what that was. The quote. So he ran a 4.8 or 4.9. I can't get a hard answer. Yeah. Mahomes 40 time. Mahomes ran a 4.8 flat. Here's what's interesting about that. So I'm a Rams fan. That's my NFC team. There's this really cool clip of McVay and Les Snead talking about Puka when they're going to draft him, and they're like, okay, so he
runs like a 1.2.
His 40 sucked, but then they said, but we have this other metric. What's his top speed on the field with pads and the ball in his hand, and then he was at a 20-something mile an hour. And so they're like, okay, so he doesn't test well traditionally, but his football speed is actually upper echelon. And the thing with if Elway was born, his rookie year was 87, right? No, he was an 84 draft class. I take that back. His MVP year was 83. Yeah. 83. So if he was born in 1993, he's going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster. Nutrition, better coaching, just better antibiotics, honestly, just better everything, right?
Oh, yeah, everything's technology.
So, right, exactly. So when people are like, oh, Deion Sanders couldn't play today, and I'm like, well, he ran a 4.2. So I'm pretty sure he's fast enough to play today, you jackass. But he'd probably be a little bit more physically gifted. I can't even imagine what Bo Jackson would look like if he was born today. I would probably pee myself just looking at him. But I look at a guy like Montana and a guy like Brady. Montana was bad. He had horrible playoff games, and his team overcame it. Brady was really weird because his first playoff one, Bledsoe gets hurt. He throws one pick of that one touchdown that entire playoff run. And then I look at a guy like John, who's like, I'm on a shitty team. I'm getting my ass beat all the time, and I'm carrying them. And I'm like, I would hope that a guy like Montana, who is a pure system guy, or I would hope somebody like Brady, who got to level up slowly for a long time, would do better winning when they were on better teams and they were asked to do less. Are you asked to do more, and can you do it guy? And so Brady has 7 rings. I don't put a lot of value on the first 2, not just because of the rampant cheating. I don't put a lot of value on the first 2 because they're a West Coast based team, ran the ball a decent amount, and their defense forced a lot of turnovers, and they won low scoring games. I just look at what Tom had to do versus what Mahomes had to do. I'm way more impressed by Mahomes. I look at what Montana got to do versus what Elway had to do. And then Elway's doing it with a good coach, but he's bad for a quarterback. Elway threw a lot of picks. Remember, I was talking about people said he was dumb. John Elway threw a lot of picks. Well, it's 3rd and 7 and the game's on the line. And he threw a pick. It's 3rd and 12. They ran the ball for 1 yard. They ran the ball for a loss of 2. They're down by 10 points. There's 7 minutes left in the 4th. I have the best arm in NFL history, and there's a tight window. What do I do? Well, analytics would tell you that throwing the ball there is actually a better fucking play because other team's going to run the ball and grind out the clock. Elway was also a victim of, honestly, football takes that made sense then that have aged very poorly. And to me, I just care about how good the player is. I can't convince anyone that Marino's better than Brady, even though he's a way better passer. So if I have to go, give me the guy who has more than a career's worth of rings and a guy who does stuff we've never seen before for an extended period of time, I don't know how that's not the better argument. I don't. Because if we can go the other way.
Well, the only argument I'm going to make here is like it's easy to dismiss Brady just because we say, well, he's not sexy.
He's beautiful. He's one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen.
Yeah. Besides that, I'm just talking like
football sexy plays. Yeah.
Right. So we look at what Mahomes does, and it's
I
like,
get
wow,
lost in his eyes.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
But Brady, it's like, he actually is a very smart player, and
he's the second smartest quarterback I've ever seen.
And that's the thing. Like, I think because Manning really isn't that athletic. Like, Manning is just incredibly smart, and he knows how to play.
He had mediocre athletic ability for his time, and then it got way worse.
I mean, he had that nice sheen on his forehead, but
yeah, he blinded the defenders. They couldn't see where the ball was going. He was playing chess, 4D chess. No, I think I think it's just. I know we're about to hop off. I just want to say this in defense of Brady. If you take my arguments to the most extreme, the most uncharitable, and you drop him off, and he just has 5 rings, that's still more than any other quarterback ever. I just have a hard time valuing a guy who was unspectacular for a long time over guys who were incredible and who had to do more with less. Because Tom Brady had it on easy street for man, he won that one Super Bowl against the Rams. He threw the ball like 12 times and they ran it 40 because Aaron Donald had a bad arm. And Goff
but the thing is, Mahomes hasn't had a bad team.
This is an unspectacular like the defense is really
it's
good.
It's not a fancy team, but they're using Bronco football. They're doing defense.
They're doing defense, but he's got one main target, one baby target that he's going around. I mean, he's throwing to 2 guys and only 2 guys in an era where I felt the same way about Brady that last year when he was throwing.
Brady did a lot of that.
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of talent.
Brady was like, okay. So I asked for a speed receiver, and you got me Mohamed Sanu, who was a good player but ran a 4.7. He was a possession guy. Fuck you, Bill. I'm going to go to Tampa, where there is a thing down there. They call him a man. He's actually a god. His name is Mike Evans. And then there's a Chris Godwin. And then they're gonna get me Gronk. He'll stop doing keg stands. And then I'm gonna get the last vestiges of Antonio Brown's sanity. And I'm gonna beat the shit out of everybody. I loved when Brady did that. Because you've also heard me rant about, you have a good quarterback, then get him someone to throw the fucking ball to. And dog, stop. I'm just saying that when he gets the 3 and you kick it around a little bit, you're going to still disagree with it. But there's going to be more of you that doesn't absolutely. You're going to go from a 100% rejection of it to a 90% rejection of it. You're not going to tell me.
Well, I mean, if it ends up where Mahomes gets like 3 more rings, I'm just going to be kicking and screaming on my way to
You're going to be real. Yeah, you're going to be real. By the way, John Elway, better than Brady. I'm just going to say it. I don't care what anyone says. Better than Brady.
Well, he is from an athletic standpoint. Like I've always said that if you put Elway on those New England teams, he doesn't lose to Eli.
No, he doesn't. In those past.
But to finish my overall point, I want the Niners to win. However, my guts tell me that Kansas City is probably going to win the game. Mainly because of experience, both with Mahomes plus the defense and Andy Reid. But I just hope the Niners pull it out. I just do. It won't really hurt Mahomes' legacy if they lose. Because still to get to the Super Bowl is a big deal.
Some people will bang up on him for saying that. Now
they will, but that's the same people that say Denver and Elway would lose in 3, 1-2. But to me, getting to the Super Bowl is just as hard. If you ask any team right now, Detroit or Baltimore, they'd rather be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, how hard is? Yeah, there's something. It's that weird thing where if getting to the championship game doesn't matter, then you're incentivized to lose in the first round because doing better is actually worse. It's a very twisted.
It hurts more.
Oh Jesus! Yeah. Bills fans, if you go to their Reddit, which I did because they angered me when they beat my Steelers, so I needed to enjoy their suffering. A lot of them were like, this is worse. When we never made the playoffs, it was like, yo, let's watch football and we'll be the lovable losers. And now we have a really good team and we could win a Super Bowl. And now it's worse watching Mahomes kill us every year. So it does hurt more, but it's better to be a team that's in the mix all the time and hoping for a breakthrough than being the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, Cleveland, despite their loss, this is the best year they've had. They're probably happy as hell they even got there.
Yeah, except for that year that Baker beat the Steelers in the playoffs. It's a fucking terrible year. It's a fucking terrible year.
All right, man. Well, we'll do this again next week, and we'll reevaluate whether or not we feel the same. Excuse me. And thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Nice 40 minutes there of talking about goats.
You're
right.
I made one comment and we spiraled.
I know. You just wanted to poke the bear.
I didn't. It was a wayward comment, and it unlocked something in you.
It was probably the first time we've had like a real butting the heads there.
Yeah.
But there is some common ground. We do agree there's some common ground there. So.
I mean, it's subjective. Like, I can't scientifically prove to you that Mahomes is or is not better than Tom.
No, I mean, there's some valid points in there. I mean, athletically, he is far superior to Brady.
Yeah.
But it's hard to deny that how many times that guy has gotten to the Super Bowl. It's like ridiculous. I think overall it's like, what was it, like
10?
10 times? Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
He lost twice to Eli and that weird Super Bowl against the
Eagles.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
And he could have won all three of those, and then lost that nail biter against Carolina, and the nail biter against the Seahawks game. That was a crazy one too. I mean, part of it is so much for these guys' legacy. It boils down to individual football games where anything can happen, which is another reason why Super Bowl wins to me are just fluky. Because Aikman has 3 rings, and he's a Hall of Famer, he's a Val Hall of Famer. But I will never take him over Dan Marino. I don't think many people would either. It's just kind of,
that's something we'll have to talk about.
It's
provoking. He had Harper and
Irvin, Daryl Johnston.
Marino had Duper and Clayton.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some good receivers there that those guys had to work with. So
yeah, what was crazy for Aikman was he had this amazing run blocking line, but they couldn't pass protect for shit. Hence,
I mean, they had a far more complete team than Marino ever had. So
yeah, and Marino has to wear the fact that he pushed back against running the ball. Like he did actively push back against that, which might have been his downfall. I'll still take him.
But he'll always have Ace Ventura.
Pet detective.
Yep. All right, man. Hang on for the rest of you. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And we will see you next time here on Poetic Carnage.